Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk chirps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Bo. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
Hello, BSers.
I thought you were doing a Drew impression for a minute when we started that.
It did sound a lot like Drew.
Yeah.
I can see where that came from.
You had the fans worried you weren't going to be here tonight.
I'm here. Me, Scott, and
Love
James.
you, Drew. Love you, buddy.
The Three Stooges in the house tonight.
Drew's off at a concert.
Yeah, Drew's off at a concert.
Well, can I ask, where's this? Like, I talked to somebody that I know that's across the country, and it was like Tuesday or Wednesday, and they were at a concert, and it was a Five-Finger Death Punch concert. I'm like, since when are these major concerts during the middle of the fucking week?
Listen, COVID fucked all that up. They're trying to make up money. They're trying to make up for, 2 years of being off?
He's going to be in Philadelphia Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh,
So I think about going.
This is who?
Post Malone.
Post Malone. That's who he's going to see.
That's right. Yeah.
He, didn't even have an accident.
Yeah,
He
he fell
through his
He
stage or
jumped
something?
and fell and broke.
No.
One of the
so
holes
there's
in
a
the
hole in the
stage
stage.
was open.
There's a hole in the stage where the guitars come up and down, and he turned. He was celebrating the fans, and he turned and stepped into the hole and wound up cracking his rib
fucked himself up
across
real
the
good.
side. Yeah, he was down. It was done. But credit to him. He posted back and gave the fans a lot of credit and said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to make it up to you. There's a lot of guys right now
Luke Combs.
Luke Combs, exactly. Basically saying hey, my voice is shit right now, and I'm giving all of you your money back for this show.
But I'm still going to do the show.
But I'm saying, right. So
which is cool. I think that's
respect.
Cool. And I'm not even a big
for
country
sure.
guy, but I think that's cool.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we got to talk about what we're here for, right? It's a
I guess we'll get around to
Baltimore
it.
sports
So I don't get
podcast. Yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Hey, at least you're not AB in a pool.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of a. Oh man, God, that was rough.
We'll talk about that later.
I saw the blurred image and I'm like, am I seeing this? Am I seeing what I think I see? Oh man.
You didn't see his ass before that?
No, I didn't see that. I just saw the wanker fucking blurred out. I'm like, what is happening? So this is AB. Nick's your boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tonight's show, man, it's going to be a little bit of a vent sesh regarding the Ravens' heartbreaking loss to the Bills on Sunday. We try to assess what went wrong in this game. Now, 2 home games in a row this season. I think 5 dating back to last year. It's been rough.
I'll talk more. I think the better way to put that is what went right.
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Exactly. And look, they've got to get over this loss because you've got a Bengals team that's coming into the bank this week under the lights on Sunday night. Everybody's got their eyes on how do you bounce back, especially at home with this situation that they're in. We're going to talk about it more.
Yeah, the Orioles eliminated from playoff contention mathematically, officially now. But there's a lot to celebrate from this year and a lot to look forward to in this upcoming year. So we're going to talk about a few guys and a few interesting potential position shakeup, we'll say, going into next year.
Yeah, I'm interested to get your take on some of those.
Yeah.
But hey, before we do, let's give a shout out to our sponsor. You guys know them. It's a team that used to be over at MD Crash. Now it's Bowers, Hassan, and Herndon. We've been telling you guys about them for 2 years now. If you don't have their number, you're either really good and don't have any issues, don't get into any trouble, which good on you. But for those of us that have had car accidents or if you get injured at work or whatever it may be, even if you decide to go out and commit murder or some other crime.
It's always awkward when you bring up murder.
Yeah, well, it's really awkward when Drew brought it up last week.
It's really awkward when the guy who wants us to read this is the one that wrote that in there.
Exactly. But hey, look, criminal cases, traffic tickets, whatever it is, you got to give them a call, 667-220-6500. You can call or text them anytime. You got to update that number. Again, it's 667-220-6500. Call or text them anytime. Get the team at Bowers, Hassan, and Herndon on the case for you.
All right, guys. Like I said, we got to talk about this. Ravens now sit 2-2 on the season after a heartbreaking 23-20 loss to the Bills at home.
I don't want to do this.
I know. You know, it's funny. He's just sitting there in the upper deck, and you're all excited early on in this game. The Ravens
He
jump
was in the
out.
upper deck. It wasn't raining. He was crying.
Yeah, it was pouring his ass
Hey,
off.
you have a long time to, walk down and just think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it felt like, we were sitting there, we're high on life. It's 20-3. Ravens are committing, getting turnovers, doing good things with the offense. I'm like, I'm not getting too high. I even said this to Ryan. I said, I'm not getting too high on this. I said, we saw the same thing happen 2 weeks ago. I'm not getting too high. And sure enough, the fucking brakes fall off in the second half. Offense stalls, can't get anything moving. The defense can't get out of their own way, can't stop anybody. It was a shit show on many different levels. And, right now, obviously, like I said earlier, 5 straight at home going back to last season, lost their 7 straight one-score games. Put that in perspective. For 26 years of existence, the Ravens were 103 all-time when having a 17-point lead or better. They're now 1-2 this year in a total of 4 games.
Yeah.
And we know, we haven't had all great years through the Ravens, right? And 103 all-time, 1-2 this year.
And that's the thing. We're going to get in. We're going to break this down because we all have opinions, and we've actually, I credit to the group and the chat group because we, for the most part, I feel like this week we actually kept our feelings a little bit more to ourselves. Like I think we all had that initial text reaction, but we've been quiet since. So I'm curious to get, what was your initial reaction? Have you changed? Are you still in the mindset that you were in? But there's not one thing that you can point your finger at in this game as being that is the point of failure. Because there were multiple points of failure in this.
Yeah.
There really were. And we're going to break it down. I mean, you can start and say, yes, we started well. The offense, we saw them kind of step up a little bit, especially for the rain, the weather playing a factor in this game.
I think that's not a factor that doesn't get talked about enough. This was a shitty condition games, not just from the rain standpoint, but from a wind standpoint. If you notice, the Ravens didn't take a whole lot of shots down the field in this game, not a whole lot of big play opportunities. Neither did the Bills. They ended up making some big plays off of short yardage situations, but they didn't take a ton of shots down the field.
The big plays were yak.
Right.
It was all yards after the catch. There was nothing deep down the field on either.
And I'm not trying to use the weather's excuse. I'm just saying it is what it is. The Buffalo plays in shitty weather all the time. The Ravens, here it can be a mixed bag. It hasn't been shitty weather yet this year, but this was the first real test of it. And again, it hampers the offense from being able to take shots down the field. So that's one factor I think that's not being talked about enough at this. But all the hate and everything, because there's been a lot of hate that went around. And I'll be honest, I was very emotional during the end of this game. And
I'm glad he said it because I was going to bring it up if he didn't.
I was pissed off about it, for many different reasons. Again, I'm sitting in the upper deck, so I'm not privy to the TV angles. I'm not privy to replays. I'm not privy to the commentary and all that stuff. But in stadium, I'm not a Harb hater, but I'm fucking cussing Harb up a storm. I'm hoping Marcus Peters gets to him and punches him in his fucking mouth. Like all the things, because, oh man, what a shit show that was with Marcus Peters, which we'll talk about that situation in a minute. But, obviously that was a big point of discussion, was the way that the game ended. You get down there and you drive down and you're on the 1 yard line and you go for it on a fourth, get back. Actually, you're back on the 4 yard line, I think, at that point. 3 or 4 yard line. You got 4 minutes left to go in the game. Your offense hadn't shown a whole lot that they can get down the field anymore. The defense hadn't been able to do a whole lot to stop Buffalo, especially in the second half. In my opinion, at the time, you take the points. That's that you got the best kicker in the league. Again, you're 4 yards off, and I understand there's 4 minutes left to go, but you don't leave points on the board.
And it's a chip shot for him at that point.
Yep. It puts your team ahead. It's pretty much a 99% guarantee that your team is going to make this field goal, and you're then going to take the lead.
Yep.
That was my emotional response in the stadium. You don't leave points on the board, and that's why I was cussing up a storm at Harbaugh. I listened to Harbaugh after why he did it, and he kind of justified it for me enough that I understood the analytics behind it.
Talk
I
about
understood
the 4-down statement, right?
Yeah.
Fuck the analytics.
I get that, and that's kind of where I'm at with it too. But he talks out of both ends, right? Because he'll say that, and he'll say, I've got all the utmost faith in my defense that they can make a stop. I've got all the utmost faith that my offense can score in that situation, right? That he's talking out both ends. But if you go for it, to me, that tells the defense that you don't trust them. And this is one of the point of emphasis that you didn't see on TV and you did see in the stadium, and I saw it clear as day. When they decided to go for it, Marcus Peters was on the sideline running over towards Harbaugh, yelling at Harbaugh. I don't know what he said, but what I'm getting out of it and based on body language is you fucking take the points and put us on put our defense on the field and we got this, like yelling at him for it. Doesn't take it. They go for it and fail. And then Marcus Peters is in his feelings. Marcus Peters is pissed off. Defense goes on the field, and we all know what happened at the end. Marcus Peters comes walking off the field, barking at Harbaugh. You shouldn't have, you should have fucking just taken the points, And Harbaugh looks at him as like, are you talking to me? And then that set Marcus Peters off. He threw his helmet down, and I'm telling you, just based off of the body language and how fast he was running towards him, if he would have gotten near him, I'm pretty sure he would have hit him.
He'd have pulled a Bobby Wagner on this.
I'm pretty sure he would have speared him, he would have hit him, he would have done something, but some coach stepped in front of him and kept that from happening. We all know Marcus Peters is an emotional guy. He rides high with his emotions, and he takes football seriously, man. He's not one of those guys that's just kind of, a game that they felt like that they could win, they don't win, and they just, good game, shake the hands, go to the locker room. Marcus wants to win every damn game that they're on the field, and when you don't give him an opportunity to go out there,
he's a competitor.
Yeah, he's the ultimate competitor. That's right.
I'm going to throw it to James. I want to get your take because obviously we know what your initial reaction was, and then I'll go after James. But James, for you, what was your initial reaction, and has it changed after kind of looking at everything and analyzing and hearing everything?
Nah. Didn't change for me. I'm sorry. Fuck the analytics. It's 2 games now that we lost because of analytics play. You have the best kicker in the league. Let him kick. Let him do his job. Like Fred said, he goes in one direction, then goes on another about the offense and defense. I trust my guys on offense, and if not, my defense. Okay, if you trust your defense, put the points on, kick the ball, and you had 3 points. And we went back and forth with Drew. He's like, I like the decision. And we had a couple of issues last year about him going, I think Fred said he was fine with it. I think when we played the Jets because it was at home, and then we did another one where he went for it. But anyways, I was upset about it because you're leaving points off the board. And this is like, from a person that played football, you put the points on when you can. So you already had that lead. Like Drew said, what he said, they would have scored that touchdown anyways. We don't know that. We hold them to 3 points. So it would have been a tie ball game because that's the way it was. And we would win the overtime and see where let the coin toss, let us have an opportunity. But you left points off the field. And if you trust your defense, because you say, if we didn't get it, I trust our defense. Put 3 points on the board and then trust your defense.
Right.
So I don't get it. I'm just tired of it. Like I said, if you don't want to use your kicker, trade him away, get something for him, and then just have another kicker that could come in and kick extra points here and there. They just cut a kicker in Chicago today, filling in for somebody. He was 4 for 4. They cut him. That's what the business is.
Yeah. What was your initial reaction? And did it change?
So my initial reaction was, I really would like to have the points. Mm-hmm. But this is where I differ from the two of you. Because of the fact, if you get it, right, I get exactly what you guys are saying. You go for it there, and you miss. Got nothing. You left points on the board. You could have had 3 points with the best kicker in the league. Get it. But then all they have to do is get 50 yards. And then Tyler back, then you're going to overtime. Now, your defense, who's already tired, who's already getting blown, is getting killed. But if you force them, if you get that, right? We're not talking about this if they get it. Because if they get it, they have no choice. They have to get in the end zone, period.
So how you're feeling, or how, I guess if this is legit what your instant reaction was in the moment, that is how I feel now.
Okay.
Now that I've taken a step back, I understand, because the situation is this. You have a tie game at that point. You kick a field goal, like you said, all they got to do is go 50 yards and tie the game. Or worst case scenario, they drive the field like they did, get a touchdown, and they win anyway. You score there with a touchdown. Worst case scenario, if they drive the field down there, it's tied. That's the worst case scenario if they drive, unless they go 2-point conversion, which I seriously doubt they do. But if they drive down the field and they can't go for a field goal, they have to go for the touchdown to tie the game.
You're forcing their hand a little bit at that point, and you're forcing them to do it with short game yardage and a running back.
Right.
If you limit the field, you're limiting. If you limit Stephon Diggs in a rainy game, you're gonna be in a good spot. The problem was they get down there. Now the flip side to this is what did happen. I was yelling when they were on the 10. Pick his ass up and carry him into the end zone so you can get the ball back and give yourself a goddamn shot now.
Okay, so to that point, another stadium reaction versus when I got home reaction and actually watched the tape. So in the stadium, I was saying it verbally out loud. Let them score. If he gets beyond the line, carry his ass into the end zone, right? And you could see very clearly, even from the upper deck, poor attempts at a tackle. It was them just basically
hugging him.
No, it was them just running by him and, oh, sorry, I missed, that kind of thing, trying to sell it or whatever. Get almost to the last line of defense, and in the stadium, Owe doesn't get the message, makes the tackle, and stops him.
Right.
In the stadium, that's how I saw it. I'm cursing up Owe. I'm in my feelings already about Owe because he's not getting the pressure that I feel like he should get in
this game, for sure.
Well, he hasn't been very productive from a pressure standpoint, but that's because he's asked to do a different position right now. He's playing the Sam linebacker position while Bowser is out until he comes back, so he's dropping in coverage a lot more than he should be. But I was already in my feelings about Bowser or about Owe because there were multiple times where he got in the backfield and was after Allen. This is a guy who's got 4.3 speed, right? I know Allen's quick,
and he was whiffing
and I know he's strong, but he was whiffing on him, right?
Yeah.
So I'm already in my feelings, and now Owe makes the tackle, which ends the game, seals the game for him. And I'm thinking, fuck, like what? So again, I'm cussing up Harbaugh, I'm cussing up Owe.
You didn't know at the video that he was taking the punch, and looking for the punch.
So the play call was to not tackle, was to either carry him in, let him go to the score, or punch it out. That was literally the play call.
Here's what I'm going to say to that. That's a coaching problem. Because that means not everyone is on the same page. In that situation, it's an all-out blitz. And guess what? Guess who I'm sending in there to punch it out? It ain't Owe. I'm sending Fruit Punch in there to punch that shit out.
Marlon was right behind Owe. If Owe wouldn't have made the tackle,
he was there.
He was the next guy in line.
But he wasn't going to go for the punch in that situation. He was about to let him go.
He was going to carry him in.
Right, exactly.
That's my point. What you're not getting out of this entire thing was the Bills and Singletary were already 2 steps ahead of us. Singletary, why Owe fell on him and why it looked like...
because he punched the ball out.
No. Why Owe fell on him was, yes, because he punched it out, but he had the punch so low because Singletary was voluntarily going down. So his line of point of view for where the ball was a lot lower than it would have been if he'd have been upright. So when he went for the punch, his body weight got to leaning over and he fell on top of him, but he was already going to the ground.
Again, my question is, if that's the case, if that's the direction, the second he gets past that first down mark, how are they not flocking to his ass to do one of those two things? Instead, Owe is the only one actually going after him.
But they're allowing him. That's what I was trying to say. There was the attempts to tackle him, which really weren't there. It was more so just so that they could sell the fact.
That's my point. You have to look at that and say they're going to be smart. These are NFL coaches. You think they're going to not run it in? Singletary's been around for the game for a little while now.
What are you saying? What are you suggesting?
You could have predicted that they were going to do this. We were all saying it.
Okay, so what's the counter? So your counter is to go behind the line of scrimmage, pick his ass up, and just carry him.
Why not?
That would never happen. It doesn't happen. I don't even know if there's rules against that.
But here's the deal. When you look at that play, Oway is the only one outside of Marlon who's probably 3 yards away. He's the only one within 4 to 5 yards of him.
No, again, Marlon was right there behind him.
Yeah, but the thing about Marlon, he was on the opposite side of the ball,
Right,
so it makes
right,
it hard
right
to punch it. Oway was the closest, but I hate when people say, Oway punched the ball out, but it didn't. I'm like, I don't care. You can also say Patrick Queen should have had that INT, but he didn't. Like, things go for a reason. Like, that's why we play the game. And people are like, well, if we would have scored, people would think differently. Well, we didn't score, okay? All I knew is we could put points up by kicking a field goal, be up by 3. I know that's a fact we could have done. Scoring the touchdown, yeah, we all hope, we'd score. But if we don't, we have to go all the way down the field. But we can also go all the way down the field if we kick a field goal, too. So
Right.
You're going to have people be like, this could have happened, anything could have happened. If the weather was better, it could have happened.
No, that's
better.
what I'm saying. There's a lot of factors in this game that could have made the outcome very different.
It also didn't help. The refs made some bad calls too. You had what pissed me off. You had the Allen, Tom Brady, pointing at the ref. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You run all the time. You run all the time. Don't be pointing at the ref.
That's what I'm saying. So there's multiple reasons that this game, or multiple ways this game could have gone very differently. That pass interference call, or a roughing the passer call, was absolute bullshit on Brandon Stevens. There was nothing. There was no attempt to launch. There was nothing at his head. Nothing. It may have been a little high up on the chest or whatever, but it didn't hit his helmet in any kind of way. There was no head-to-head contact, and the flag wasn't thrown until he had a fucking temper tantrum on the ground, hit his hands on the ground, and then the flag comes in.
Yeah.
It was absolute bullshit. The other side of it, if you want to put blame on any other player, and I hate to do this, but Rashad Bateman is a problem right now. He had 3 drops in this game. And again, you can blame it on the weather. You can do whatever you want. One of which, those drops, you remember the play against the Dolphins where he caught the ball on a post route and just ran to the sideline. It was the same.
He was wide open.
It was the same route. If he would have caught it, it would have been a house call for sure. Unless, I don't know, maybe he was dealing with an ankle injury or somebody comes out at it. Yeah, exactly. But 3 drops in this game, and this is your number 1 receiver, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this, and I want to see if you understand what these numbers mean. 2, 4, 2, 3.
These apply to him.
Apply to him, Bateman. What is that? If I ask you what those numbers mean, what does that mean?
2, 4, 2, 3. Targets.
Andrews, 5, 9, 8, 2.
Targets per game.
These are receptions. Your number 1 receiver has 2, 4, 2, and 3 receptions in the 4 games this year. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I understand early on with the Dolphins game, he had a big play. With the Jets game, he had a big play. But receptions, we all talked about like the loss of, Hollywood Brown not being that significant, but this offense revolved around at least having 2 targets that he could count on week in and week out. It was Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. And we all said, well, who's going to be that third guy? We got to get a third guy more involved. Right now, we only have 1 fucking guy involved in the pass offense.
Devin Duvernay and Mark Andrews.
And Devin Duvernay, even his numbers, 4, 2, 2, 4.
It just looks more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he looks more impressive. He's making more of a
making big
contribution,
plays.
and he's making big end zone
Just like
plays.
that hell of a catch when Mark Andrews tipped it to him.
Right, yeah, that was a fucking
Crazy
incredible play.
Yeah.
But your fullback, Pat Ricard, had the same stat line as Rashad Bateman in this game from a receiving standpoint. Catches, yards. Again, I know he left a little early because he was banged up with his ankle. He left the stadium in a walking boot. But that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And Hollywood right now is doing big things. Now, granted, he's the only guy in with the Cardinals right now until Hopkins gets back. But I'm not saying that I miss Hollywood Brown, but something needs to happen here. If this is your number 1 wide receiver, he's got to be more involved. He's got to catch the ball more. 3 drops in this game. That's a big problem.
No, and I get what you're saying with this, because the thing with him is it's coming off the injury. You thought, okay, last year he looked really good. You thought it was going to continue to translate. And it started to, but you've seen here recently some of these drops. That's the thing is it's drops. It hurts more because it's drops in clutch situations, right? It's drops where he could have made a house call. It's drops where it could be a first down. That's a big part of the problem here when you look at this at his overall stat line, not just for this game but for this season. You brought up the receptions. One of the things that you got to look at for him is those targets, right? And it's in comparison. And that goes to your point. When you have all these drops, what have we historically seen with Lamar Jackson? You start dropping the ball when he's hitting you in the numbers. Regardless, everybody wanted to make excuses on TV about the ball that was behind him. That's bad receiver of not making sure it's in his hands first before you start to turn.
Yep.
He was too worried about the hit he thought was coming.
Yep.
They was still 5 yards off of it.
I hate when that happens.
But you have to look at this. When you look at his game log and his receptions versus what he was given for targets, you said 2, 4, 2, 3, right? Mm-hmm. Targets 5, 7, 4, 6.
Yeah. I mean, we've watched some of these other teams play. Some of their best wide receivers have that many catches in the first fucking half. Catches, not just targets, catches, right? We're talking 2, 4, 2, and 3 catches a whole game.
Yeah.
A whole game. That's fucking what? 6, 8, that's 11 catches all year.
Yeah. It's not.
From your number one wide receiver.
11 of 22, right? Think about that number. Yeah. He has 50% catch rate.
It's a problem. It's a problem. And mind you, during the game, how it was impactful. You had to lead. You had to lead 20-3, right? With the ball, the final 2 minutes of the first half. A chance to go up big and get the ball at the start of the second half, mind you, right? Instead, we shoot ourselves in the foot with stupid penalties. Bateman couldn't catch the pass. And we get a pass interference call on Poyer versus Robinson, which was very clearly pass interference. We don't get that call. So we're forced to punt. Allen goes down the field, leads them on a touchdown drive with less than 2 minutes to go, and it's 20-10 at the half. And it changes everything. That's when I started to feel like, oh, we've seen this movie before.
Yeah. I got to address something in the chat room. Garnett saying, but Lamar didn't throw good passes on some of those plays, to be honest.
His hands were on the ball. He's your number one wide receiver. Catch the fucking ball. Sorry. I'm not saying they're perfect passes. Again, it's rain, so you can see that on both sides. You can say, oh, well, he didn't throw a perfect pass because of the rain. You can say, oh, well, he didn't throw a perfect pass, or he didn't catch the pass because of the rain. I get it on both ends of it. But if the ball hits your hands as a wide receiver, you got to catch the ball more times than not, and Bateman just isn't doing it.
Yeah,
it's 3 drops in this game.
It's not like these were situations where he couldn't hold on to the ball where he was getting hit. That ball was in his hands and the defender was 5 yards off of him.
Yeah.
He was worried about the hit. His body was turned around before the ball was even in his hands because he was already turned. Go back and watch the video. You guys don't believe me. He went back for it and his front shoulder was already turning before the ball hit his hands. He knew the ball was behind him, but he didn't stay with it. Stay with the ball.
Yep.
Stop worrying about the hit afterwards or the yards. Yards after the catch are great. You got to have the catch first.
Yep.
That's the big thing with me for him. So I agree with you. And honestly, I think, it wasn't just that side of things. We did see, the run game did okay. I would have expected it to do better. Obviously, I know Hill went out with the injury. But JK, I'll say progress.
Yeah, I mean, he's not getting the big chunk yardage yet, and he'll get that. He just doesn't have that explosion yet. He still has, his ability to shake and make guys miss and that kind of thing, which is promising. He had 13 carries for 41 yards in this game. He also had 4 catches for 22 yards, but he found pay dirt twice, got 2 touchdowns, one running the ball and one catching the ball. So yeah, there's progress there. But where I was really seeing progress was Justice Hill. This is now 2 weeks in a row, very solid game, 8 carries for 45 yards, and then as soon as I start feeling good about him, which I have not felt good about him since they drafted him, but as soon as I start feeling good, boom, he blows a hammy. Still somehow makes another 12 yards on the run, but he pulled a hammy. They say it's not as serious as they once thought it was, so that's good. Maybe it won't be a long-term injury because hammies can be finicky that way. They can be short term or they can be long term.
That's what it was with Bateman.
Right,
year.
exactly.
He had to get the surgery.
Yep. Well, it could end up being a couple week thing. We'll see. They haven't released any of the specifics yet, but it's sad because again, he was basically the only one that was giving you any explosion out of the backfield beyond Lamar.
Well, and here's the deal. I said it the last time, and I'll say it again. And when I say the last time, I'm talking about the Dolphins' loss. For me, on the offensive side of the ball, play calling. Adjustments to play calling by Greg Roman in the second half when you see a defense is doing something different.
Yeah.
He's not adjusting.
Agreed.
Or when he adjusts, it's, let's throw the ball more.
Yep.
Stop trying to force Lamar to be a passer, especially in a goddamn rain game, for God's sakes.
I get so jealous when I watch like the Chiefs play and the creativity with their offense and some of the things that they do. It's just I'm sure there's a lot of teams in the NFL that look at the Chiefs and are like, wow, I wish we could do those things or wish we could implement those things in our game. But it does. It leaves. It frustrates you because you can see the potential in this team. You know that Lamar can do whatever he wants on that field. He can make all the throws. He can do anything that you need him to do. You just got to put the guys in the right positions. And like you said, when defenses are game planning for certain things, you then have to adjust to that. And we haven't seen that out of Greg Roman historically, and we're not seeing it again this year where we thought, like a couple people in the chat room said, we thought that vault was going to be open and things were going to change, but nothing's changed.
We saw one piece of cash come out of the vault. That's it.
Yeah, the Andrew sneak, and then Dolphins were like, yeah, we can do it better.
And really, people were going, well, why weren't they doing that before? He's that good at yards after the catch. Might as well put him in that situation. Yeah, we've harped on it, and if it continues, if the lack of adjustments continue, when you can't score in the second half in 2 games, and really they didn't do a great job in the Patriots game in the second half with scores either.
Right.
But it was at least better than those two, the Dolphins in this game.
Right.
But you've got it. You're in the big leagues, buddy. You have to make adjustments. One thing that I want to get your opinion on, because it was something that I thought I would see or was hoping to see this year. I'm not seeing it yet, and I don't like it because it either means they're limiting him or he can't do it. I think it's the first one. I think it's they're limiting him. You don't see Lamar audibling at the line of scrimmage. You see them waiting until 5 seconds left on the clock before we're all ready and going, all right, we ready? We ready? We ready? 3, 2, hike!
Yeah, that has been a point of frustration for me for a long time, and it hasn't gotten a whole lot better. They're breaking the huddle with about 12 to 13 seconds on the play clock, and by the time everybody gets lined up and ready to go, he has about 5 seconds to get the ball off. So there's really not a whole lot of time for him to read the defense, make audibles. So something needs to happen where they need to simplify that process or speed that process up in a way that he can break the huddle with 20 seconds left to go or 18 seconds left to go. That way he can get up to the line, read the defense, and make the adjustments that he has. He's just got to go basically off whatever the play call is.
And that's what I'm saying. No time. I feel like it's like they're like trying to over and out manipulate themselves, or they don't think he can do it. And I think he can do it. He seems to be a pretty damn smart football player that he can figure out where the hole is that he needs to run through. Right. I think he can probably read a defense more than some people would give him credit for. I just don't think they're giving him the time. And I don't know if they're not giving him time because they don't have a strong game plan going into the game or what it is. But and I'm throwing a number out there, when it feels like 75 to 80% of your play calls are them coming and breaking the huddle at 10 seconds, what did we hear from some of the greats that are passers, the Bradys, the Mannings? We hear, you got at 10 seconds, you pretty much, that's it.
Right. Whatever the play call is, get up and go.
You got to break that huddle at 20 to 18, get lined up, give yourself a 5-second read, make an adjustment, and if you make that adjustment, you're taking it close.
I watch
it
snapping. Every time I'm in that stadium. I'm constantly watching the play clock, and it's always around 11, 12, or 13 seconds in that range that they're breaking the huddle. There's absolutely no time.
It's frustrating, and again, I bring it up because to me, it's the play calling. It's the fact that it's not getting in quick enough, or it's so complicated that it takes two minutes or 30 seconds to tell them what it is. I don't know what the problem is, but there is a problem with our play calling process in some way, shape, or form, and it needs to change. And I'm sorry. It needs to change now. It needs to change before week 6, because if it doesn't, I'll say it here and I'll say it right now. One more loss where they can't put points up on the board in the second half to keep their team in it, I'm calling for Greg Roman's ass, just like I did last year. Except this time, I'll be a lot fucking louder.
Go ahead, James.
Well, I'm going to do what they did on me on Saturday and Sunday. Aaron Judge hit his 62 home run. So I'm going to interrupt the show just to let you know, like they did all week for me. Like I care. Like I can't look at my internet to find out that you hit it.
He did it a 60 second?
Yeah.
60 second?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So.
All right. Well, the other coordinator that we haven't talked about, and I know they've been talking about it a little bit in the chat room, Mike McDonald on the defensive side. We already kind of talked about the Brandon Stevens absolute bullshit roughing the passer call. We talked about the OA situation, right? But a lot of people are frustrated, right? Because this is one of the worst ranked defenses in the league. And in a lot of statistics, they're the last ranked defense in the league.
They have them pretty high.
A lot of people are already throwing in the towel on Mike McDonald. He's not it. He's not the answer. He's the problem right now, blah, 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 blah.
Throwing in the towel on Kyle Hamilton, too.
Right. You have to temper expectations with Mike McDonald. At least for me, I knew getting into this, he's a rookie defensive coordinator. He had 1 year in college as a defensive coordinator. I expected there to be a learning curve with this guy. And honestly, I expected some of the veteran players that are on this team to kind of help him with that, because it's a group effort, right? You got guys on the field that are field generals, that are supposed to be field generals, right? That are supposed to be able to communicate effectively together, especially with the rookies and keeping them in line. And we've seen that was a mess. It was another situation which didn't end up hurting us, but it could have cost us a touchdown, should have cost us a touchdown, but Allen threw the ball high, where Kyle Hamilton was again out of position, and you could see them on the Jumbotron. They probably didn't show it on TV, but you could see them on the Jumbotron, Hamilton and Peters and Chuck Clark jabbing at each other, trying to figure out who was supposed to be to make that play. Fortunately, like I said, the ball was thrown over his head, so it didn't end up being a touchdown, but the communication issues for me are the biggest issue I have with the defense and the pass rush, but the pass rush is coming because right now I think they're just so limited. They don't have a whole lot of options.
They're thin.
Right? They're super thin. Communication is a coaching issue. That is something that it should be easily practiced. It should be easily figured out. And, everybody's high on Chuck Clark being this, the high IQ, high football IQ guy, and he's the green dot, and who else you're going to give the green dot into the, on the defense? Well, if he's the one that's not able to communicate and figure this out on the field, then maybe you do need to look at moving that green dot. I don't know where the issue is, but it is Mike McDonald's job to figure that out. Yeah, no,
he has to figure it out. This defensive scheming, the hard part is it worked the first half in both games. So what the fuck happened in the second half? We couldn't make adjustments.
Yeah.
I know that there are some guys out there that we can make arguments. An OA is a prime example where he's out there for like 90% of the snaps. So I get it. Some of these guys are probably winded. We're thin on the front line. We're not getting all the pressure in the second half. We are getting the pressure in the first half.
Right.
Second half, so winded, so out of it, which means your secondary has to cover more. But in this game, the secondary, to your point, it wasn't just that situation. You could have given them the entire back half of the field as far as I was concerned. If Stephon Diggs catches a 60-yard in the air pass from Josh Allen in the rain, he can have it.
Right.
Credit and hats off to you for taking the shot on it.
If there's anybody in the league that could have thrown deep through the wind, it would have been Josh
Through the wind and
Allen.
rain, because the Bills have played in this almost every
but he
week.
Right.
go
Well,
in-
that
he
and he's
could go
got
in
the
college, too.
strongest arm in the NFL.
Right.
So if there's anybody that can cut through that wind, it would be him. But even them, they didn't take shots down the field. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Is that the weather was absolutely a factor.
so
So you keep everything in front of you.
I'm going to toot my own horn on this a little bit because I get what you're saying, and you did say that, hey, there's going to be a learning curve. But I told you I had reservations with him being you were a defensive coordinator in college for one season for a team that previous season fucking killed it. You inherited something. You know, I sit here and I think about the movie Draft Day, where he's like, you know, I won a Super Bowl ring, and he goes, you fucking inherited a team and then decided to run it into the fucking ground.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of in that mindset. Like, I'm tempering my expectations, but I'm kind of reverting back, going. One, everybody's saying the whole thing about us talking about Bateman and the receptions and targets and stuff like that. I saw you, Garnett. And the sample size is too small. The sample size was too small for him to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL as far as I was concerned. I said that. I voiced that.
The sample size is what it is. It's 4 games. Like regardless, if you're talking about the wide receiver thing, like there's no excuse for it.
But you're telling me there weren't more qualified people that had greater experience as a defensive coordinator that you could have offered the position to?
That's one of my problems with Harbaugh is just some of the choices that he's made in coaching assistants over the years. Because, I mean, when you look at the names that he's brought in, Cam Cameron, Mark Trestman, Marty Morningwig, Greg Roman, before stooges as offensive coordinators, honestly. And this one, I was on the fence about because I like that the fact that he was young.
I see you, Garnett. I see you.
I like the fact that he was young. I like the fact that he knew the defense and he knew the players, right? So he wasn't coming in completely raw. He kind of knew what this base defense could do and what their abilities were. So I thought, all right, I'm willing to give this guy a little bit of a learning curve. I know it's not going to be the smoothest of transitions, right? That it was going to take some time. And then on top of, again, not having any healthy edge rushers right now, Owe is, we all want him to be this pass rush specialist, but he's not able to do that right now because he's having to play Sam linebacker, which is what Tyus Bowser would normally be playing, and he's having to drop in coverage. I saw somebody else posted earlier something about he's dropped in coverage 20-something times this year. That's how much he did last year total in 400-plus snaps, right? Like, that's part of the reason that we're not getting the edge rush. It's part of the reason why the defense is struggling the way it is. This team is only going to get better as they get more and more healthy. It gets a guy like David Ajabu, who he's familiar with, right? So I think that this defense, it's struggling, and it's not very rare.
It's not Raven defense that we're used to.
Exactly.
For sure.
It's very rare to see a Ravens defense struggle this bad.
Go ahead, James.
I got something for you. So at the end of the year, when Wink was let go, we're like, what happened? Like, I thought it would be Gyro or Greg, and we're like all shocked. We're all shocked. Are we shocked? Could maybe Wink said something to Harbaugh saying, hey, like, I'm out here having high school players filling in for a position, keeping us in games to win. They were close with the Green Bay Packers. They were close with the Rams that went to the Super Bowl and won it. And then with a
bunch of nobodies, to your point,
a bunch of nobodies. Everybody's back healthy. I know they're not like, whatever, but maybe Wink got let go because maybe he said something to John that John didn't like.
Who knows?
And you know how John gets into his feelings, like, hey, I'm running the show, and saying, hey, it's time for Wink to go.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been a situation where Wink didn't want to be here anymore either.
But there'd be a different way for him to move on.
Think about it, right? Because you think about, what did Dean Pease do? I'm walking away from football. He walked away for 1 year. What did he do? He got right back into football.
Yeah.
Rosberg, the special teams coordinator, retired from football. And now he's coming back.
I'm just saying, maybe it's something with
Wake Martindale. He's doing big things with the Giants right now. Giants are 3-1. Who would have thought the fucking Giants would be 3-1, right?
I'm just saying, what he had to work with last year and still was in competitive games. I think if we have him this year, it's a different record.
No,
right now.
I get what you're saying, and I think everybody's kind of joining into it. And Garnett says the Bills are in the same situation we were in last year when it came to the injuries in the secondary, and they're making that shit work. That's why I can't make excuses for the defense. That's kind of what we're saying. Like there's not a reason for this defense to do well. I will say the one highlight on the defense.
Yeah, Garnett, but the thing with that is their defensive front is much better than our defensive front. Their edge rushers are unreal. They've got 4 and 5 edge rushers deep. If you can get that kind of pressure on the quarterback, your secondary doesn't have to play as good. That's why their defense is so good. Our defense,
you force the quarterback to make mistakes.
Our defense did not have that kind of edge rush that our secondary could overcome those injuries. It's a different situation.
And that's why I don't know if Scott heard it because he was quiet on Sunday in the chat. I don't know if he was busy or not. But they asked Von Miller, how do you stop Lamar? He goes, you don't change because that's what he wants. You just do what you originally keep on doing and grinding at it and don't change anything up because that's what he wants you to do. You just play your game and you try to control him. But you don't change how you're going to play him. You just play how you are. And leave it out on the field.
To that point, let's talk about something good in this game, right? Because that is one thing, Falele, the left tackle, right?
Okay.
I thought he held his own pretty well in this game, considering he's going up against one of the best edge rushers in the game in Von Miller for most of that game. Didn't let up a single sack to Lamar.
Fair enough, yeah.
So I thought there was some false start issues, especially with Tyler Linderbaum. I think Tyler Linderbaum had two, maybe even 3 of them. So other than that, he played a good game. Don't get me wrong. Linderbaum didn't let up any pressures or any sacks either. Those are things that are expected rookie mistakes. They're going to clean that up.
It's going to happen with both those guys. And to your point, both those guys with that offensive line, with the issues that we've had, the injuries that we've had, they both have, as far as I'm concerned, stepped up, right, and done what we've done. Now, flip side of the ball, going back to the defense for a second, because we didn't mention him. You want to talk about something that I thought looked good? JPP played more snaps.
Played way more than I thought he would.
And he was
had to.
Right, but he was getting some pressure.
Yeah.
It wasn't all the time, and it wasn't always successful, but for it being a 4-day week for him, and getting in there and playing as much of the snap count that he did, give him time.
Yeah,
give him time to get the pressure, to get worked back up. I'm curious. I'm not going to overhype it. I'm not going to be overly optimistic, but I'm intrigued. I'm curious because what I saw in this game, you get a little bit more health on that defensive front. He might be one to reckon with.
Yeah, no, JPP, I think, to me, was a very good signing. I think that was going to pay dividends. Good.
My thing is, I'm going to put this comment out there. This is what bothers me about people. So I'm going to put it up. It's from John Gooks.
Okay,
hold
good.
on.
Click show.
People keep forgetting. We still have dudes like Tebow and Ajabi still yet to play. Yeah. That's great and all. That's like me having a Ferrari in the garage. Say, hey, Fred, when my car's ready to go, I'm going to kick your ass even though you've been kicking his ass. They're not on the field.
Right.
I want people that are here now that play the games. We were all have our guys healthy and all that. But
no.
Right now,
what his point is that this defense, what we're seeing right now, is not going to be the end all.
I understand that, but
that's going to get better.
We're playing. We hope it gets better.
When these guys are healthy, they will affect this defense, and it will get better. It will get better because it will put people in positions that they're supposed to be in. It'll help create pass rush. It'll give them depth. It'll help guys.
We hope.
I mean,
we hope.
Look, and Sherry says, I have faith.
That's like anything. But I love the Pierre Paul. I was a little hesitant about it, but we'll see after 4 or 5 games. But I thought Owe looked better with Pierre Paul out there because he was actually getting there, but he just couldn't wrap up.
Oh, yeah,
or he overran.
He's one of the league leaders, if not the league leader, in quarterback hurries right now. So
Yeah,
but the problem is a hurry only does so much. It gets a guy flushed out of the pocket, but he's not getting home. And this is a guy who we drafted, who we touted as 4.3 speed. Who's going to be able to outrun this guy? Well, apparently everybody's able to outrun him right now partly because he's on the field a lot more than he should be because of the lack of depth. And that's where I'm saying that this defense will get better. As you're saying, Oweh has shown flashes. Those flashes get better as he's more rested and he has more depth behind him and there's more rotation.
I said in the chat, like Oweh looks a lot better with Pierre Paul out there because you have another guy that's helping out that releases the load a little bit, but he was like a lot of time he was overrunning or missing the tackle.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, that's Patrick Queen's issue. It's just the over pursuing and whatnot. And that's 2 weeks in a row that Patrick Queen's just dropped a dead to rights interception. Yeah, frustrating. He's not. I'm not a Queen hater. I don't think that we're getting the value out of what he was as a first round draft pick by a long shot. We're not getting that. But I'm not one to just completely dismiss what Patrick Queen is doing because I think Patrick Queen is still a very effective linebacker. Is he a Ray Lewis? No. The problem with us and Ravens fans is the bar is so
safety and linebacker.
The bar is so fucking high for middle linebackers, but dead to rights interceptions, you got to fucking have it. And it's so frustrating when it happens week after week.
When it hits you in the numbers, that's a problem. And I know that Sherry said it like she's has faith. She's not giving up. Look, Sherry, we have faith. What we're saying is that there are changes that have to happen. If you're not thinking that something needs to change, you're not being real and you're not seeing what's going on and off the field. We're at that point where you have to start making adjustments. The tape is getting out and we're not adjusting, and that's the problem.
So I'm going to go back to the offensive line because you went back to the defense when I wasn't done here yet. So with Filele, and the reason I wanted to bring this up, and Rick actually kind of alludes to it, he says, so do you think if Filele keeps playing lights out, will they keep Stanley? It's a matter of whether Stanley I don't think it's a matter of the Ravens keeping Stanley. It's a matter if Stanley ever plays again.
If he doesn't play a snap this year, they need to sit down and have a conversation with him. Where I want
to take this question is not so much like too far into the future. I want to go within the next couple of weeks. I've liked what I've seen out of Filele. It's very surprisingly, especially at left tackle, considering he didn't play left tackle in college.
Ryan's right now.
I'm very, very impressed with what I've seen so far. So let's say next week, Ronnie Stanley comes back and is healthy and he's ready to play. What do we do? Does Ronnie Stanley immediately start at left tackle? And where does Filele go at that point? Is Filele your backup left tackle? Is he your rotational, your left or right tackle, swing tackle? Does he move to the guard? Does he go to right tackle? What does he do?
For me, if and when Ronnie Stanley comes back.
I like that.
My statement is the first game back, he plays no more than 25% of the snaps. Okay. And let's see how he's doing. Because
I think if they were going to slow roll him like that, they would have just already had him out there. I think
they keep saying the ball's in his court.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the way that he's taken it is I'm not stepping back onto the field until I feel I'm at my 100%, until I feel I am the Ronnie Stanley that I've always been type thing. And that's why it's taken so long, is that he's not going out there and saying, well, I can give you 20 to 25 snaps this week, and then we'll work it up to 30 to 35 snaps next week. I think Ronnie Stanley is an all or nothing kind of guy. So that's the scenario I'm painting here. Don't think outside of that. If Ronnie Stanley comes back and he's playing and he is your starting left tackle, my question is, where does Filele fit in?
Rotational with Moses at right.
Rotational? See, for me, there was a lot of people that were saying, oh, he could slide inside to guard and take over where Ben Powers is right now, which, honestly, I don't think Ben Powers has played that bad. He was a little rough in the first week, but he's gotten better. I think the biggest problem right now is on the right side of the line, not from a pass protection. I don't think anybody on the offensive line, honestly, is struggling in pass pro. Pass pro has actually been pretty decent. It's run blocking. And all the breakdowns that Cole Jackson's done on his channel that I've watched, a lot of the issues on that offensive line for the run game stem from Morgan Moses. So if Falele is playing this good at left tackle and right tackle is his natural home, I think I bump Falele over to the right tackle, and now Moses becomes your swing tackle, personally, because I think this kid is shown that he can dominate and that he can play really well. And if he's playing on the left side that good, he's only going to do much better on the right.
Or you get the vice versa of what happened with Orlando Brown. You put him on the left, and he thinks he's
well, you can't live in that fear.
Out.
This is his rookie year, so we don't have to worry about that for a while. But I don't know. It's a good problem to have.
He deserves to play on the line. I agree.
Considering a shitty situation with all the injuries and whatnot that we have, if Ronnie Stanley comes back and he is the Ronnie Stanley that we've all kind of hoped he would be and that we've all known him to be as an all-pro, that is a good problem to have.
Yes, there's too many unknowns for any of us to make a solid prediction, but I think you're right. I think it's, the fact that we would even be questioning, okay, where are we going to put this kid on the line? He's doing so well. And the line themselves has done decent.
Yeah. That's what I say.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's a good problem to have. All right, let's shift gears. Let's move on to week 5. Like I said, it doesn't get any easier. We got the primetime showdown this weekend at the bank. The Bengals come into town 2-2. We got Nelly at halftime.
About time.
It's an interesting start to the season, not just for the Ravens, but for the entire AFC North. A lot of us expected the Ravens and the Bengals to be at the very top of the division, fighting it out for the division title, and that is the way it is right now.
Yeah.
But no team is running away with this division 4 weeks into the season. Both, again, Ravens and Bengals both sitting at 2-2. I think the Steelers are 1-3 at this point, right? So it's a shit show in the AFC North, but we all know Cincinnati always plays us well at home. They absolutely destroyed us twice last year, embarrassed us here at the stadium. It's probably the most tail between my legs feeling I've ever had leaving that stadium last year. I mean, it was an ass whooping.
Well, especially when his rookie season, we were the one that knocked his ass out.
Right. Exactly.
So it really hurt more because it was a vengeful game, and they knocked him out before. Can they do it? And then they stomped our ass twice.
Right.
Exactly. And so it's this team. This is the one that should have been circled.
Yeah.
This should have been circled, and this team needs to have. That's why I said in the pre-show as we were going over all this, I don't know what the hell's going on. But everybody needs to get their head out of their ass, head on a swivel, figure out the communications on defense, get your ass to the quarterback, protect your own quarterback, and find the running lanes to be able to run the ball. Because this is the game. If you lose this game, it's going to be very deflating for not only the fan base, but I think for this team as well, because this game is the game that I think should be circled. I don't even know if I'm going to
want to do next week's show if we lose this game. It's going to be rough. I mean, I have to stay off social media sometimes now and give myself breaks from it because it's so fucking toxic when the Ravens aren't playing well. It's bad right now. They lose this game, it's going to fall apart. But there are some positives, right? This is the week where Tyus Bowser and Gus Edwards are eligible to return. Harbaugh said it sounds encouraging with Gus Edwards that he might be ready to go. We'll see how it works out this week in practice. Tyus Bowser didn't sound quite as promising that he's going to be ready to go this week, but if he is, again, that just adds another guy in rotation. If you get Justin Houston back, there's another guy on that defensive line that we need. Another week in the books for Jason Pierre-Paul too. So I think defensively, that's okay. But again, this is a team that absolutely shredded us last year in the secondary. Again, it was against JV guys. I get it that we were completely deprived. I mean, Marlon Humphrey, I think, was out there. I think this might have been the game that he got hurt in. Was it the Bengals game that he tore his pec?
The second one, yeah.
Yeah, the one at the bank, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is I don't feel great about it, but I didn't feel great about going into this week's game against the Bills either. Obviously, we picked the Ravens to lose.
No, and that's the thing. You want to see, like you said, Houston come back. The other question marks, how long is Macari out? Right? Yeah. How long before we actually see Ronnie Stanley?
Right.
Bateman,
I got, like I said,
Whatever's going
left
on
the
the foot.
stadium with
He's not playing.
We'll see. But that's a problem. Again, I was critical of him earlier, but what other options do you have beyond him?
Yeah. Well, I want to see them involve likely a little bit more. I don't know who said it in there, but I've seen
saying that for
they haven't involved him as much as I feel that they should have. We've seen them use these tight end sets at times, make it work. Let's see what it is. Find a way for a Nick Boyle to give a nice chip block and get open. We've seen him do that successfully.
Right.
There's a lot of things that's got to go right in this game, and a lot of players that need to be healthy in order to do that.
Pass rush is absolutely critical in this game. It has to be a factor for the Ravens in this game because that is what's keeping Joe Burrow at bay right now. He's been sacked 16 times on the year this year. So when you start looking at the offense and where are they struggling, they're struggling because Joe Burrow doesn't have time, and they invested in their offensive line this offseason. I thought that was going to be the last thing that this Cincinnati was going to be the thing that put him over the top. Well, so far this offensive line is not playing very well. Again, 16 sacks, and then on top of that, you've got Joe Mixon, who a lot of people rate as one of the top backs in the league. He's struggling this year. He's got 224 yards on the ground. Yeah. He's averaging 2.7 yards per carry.
Not what you're used to out of him.
That's bad.
But he struggled before the first game last year against us and then ran all the fuck over us. So emotion is going to play into this game one way or the other.
Yeah.
To your point, they have to get in Joe Burrow's face early and often. And the biggest thing, they cannot let up. If that means you're pulling Brandon Stevens in to do the same thing he did to Josh Allen,
right?
Fucking do it. Do it. I didn't see enough. For this game in the Bills, I didn't see enough safety blitzes coming in this game that should have been there, given that this was a game that was short yardage on the ground. Right. That's what it was expected to be. It was a rain game. We should have been sending more guys at blitzing a lot more than we did. So we'll see what the weather brings this weekend, but you still got to do what it takes to get to him.
Fred,
I don't know what it's going to take, but we'll figure it out.
Fred, do you feel comfortable about the Ravens this week, or are you comfortable on your fantasy trade you made?
I'm pretty happy with the trade I made. So, yeah, locking up two of the best receivers for the next decade. I'm pretty happy.
Decade.
Yeah.
No funerals, just a rainstorm today.
Right. All right, so let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about this game and our primetime predictions. But before we get to the game, give us an update on the Pigskin Pick'em.
Yeah, the Pigskin Pick'em, last week's single-point leader for the second week in a row, Mr. Buffalo Chuck.
Hey-o.
109 out of 136 points.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty
Chuck's
damn good, buddy.
Climbing up the board, man.
He's climbing.
He's at 7th right now.
Yeah, and Alex Devon he holds that top spot. He doesn't hold the top spot in wins and losses. That actually goes to Bierbina, Mr. Savage, who's at 40 and 23. Drew right behind him at 39 and 23. But it's all because Drew missed that one game.
Yeah.
that Thursday game last week. But Alex has a grasp on that point so far at 360. It gets interesting, but here's the deal, guys. This can switch week to week. We've watched people climb and fall. We see now that you guys are climbing. Drew's kind of holding steady. Joe Carlozo has climbed up. Chuck has climbed up. Breaking the top 10 again this week is Christy Hewitt and Jay Howell. who are names that haven't necessarily been in the top 10. So make sure you're getting those in. Get them in time.
Yeah.
Set your alert. Set your alarm. Get them in there because it's still anybody's game. It's only week 4.
Yep.
All right, so last week with our primetime predictions, myself, Drew, and James all went 3-1 on the week. Scott went 2-2. So that puts the season standings. Drew and I tied at 11-6 for first. Scott at second at 10-7. James pulling up the rear at 9-8.
I like it.
Two
That's not
games
much of a rear,
separated.
though, yeah.
I mean we're real close.
I'm going to get one back this week.
Drew ended up getting the pick to click this week with the Bills and the Ravens game.
I was
He picked
close,
24-20 as a 1-point differential in the game. That's pretty fucking impressive.
I was close on 3.
Were you close on them? Yeah. I had one that I think I was within 7 of, but that was the closest I got to all my games.
I was close to the Buccaneers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, being that the Ravens game is a primetime game this week, there's only 3 games to talk about. So we'll go in order. We'll hold off on the Ravens until the Sunday night game. So let's start with Thursday night football. Thursday night football, you got the Indianapolis Colts, 1-2-1 on the year. Fucking hate ties. Going against the Broncos.
Isn't this the second time in 3 years that they've had a tie?
I don't know. I don't keep track of that kind of shit, but wouldn't surprise me. Broncos sitting at 2-2 at 2-2, I guess they're in no worse a position than the Ravens are, but God, are they underperforming from where I thought they'd be with Russell Wilson.
But they also said that whole division. Oh, no, that's the NFC. It's all 2-2.
Right. Yeah, in the NFC.
Yeah.
Right. The Colts with a surprising win last week. Right? Did they win last week? No, wait a minute. I'm thinking of
No, they lost this past
lost
weekend.
this
The previous weekend
right,
they won.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you see this game shaking out?
So for me, here's the thing about the Colts. Everybody is pointing their finger at one game and one game only, and it was the loss to the Jags. Well, the way that I look at things this week, heading into week 5, you're taking on the Broncos. The Broncos games, yes, they're 2-2, but it hasn't been an impressive 2-2. Like they haven't been blowing anybody out. This isn't the Russell Wilson of old that we were all used to. So I look at this game, and I know that Denver's only favored by 3, but I think this is where we're starting to see Frank Reich and this Colts offense start to kind of put things together. Now, the only factor here is Jonathan Taylor going to play?
Right. That's a big question.
That's the big
question. The other
question.
factor is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's got a shoulder issue that he's dealing with, and he wasn't looking good before the shoulder injury.
No. Which is why, regardless of whether one or both of those players actually do play, I have this being a very close 4-point game. 21-17 Colts. They're gonna figure it out again this week. They're gonna show that they're kind of putting the pieces together, and we're gonna start seeing the Colts kind of build up a few wins here. They've been outside of that Jags game. They've been in every game.
Yeah.
3 point. The one tie and the other 2 games, they won by 3 points. They lost by 3 points. They lost 24-0 versus the Jags, but at the same time, it's like they've been doing well.
Somehow they're 2-2 on the year, and I think more of the credit goes to their defense in that. Man, that Broncos and San Francisco primetime game I was watching on the plane on our way back from Michigan, that was the worst primetime game I've watched in a long time. It was terrible.
This could be another one.
I think this is going to be an ugly game. From what I hear, apparently a lot of the players in Indianapolis aren't big Matt Ryan fans. Don't really like him as a leader or just the way he goes about the way he talks to people.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Jonathan Taylor, he's the X factor in this game if he's going to play or how healthy he is if he does play. Somehow, I think the Broncos will figure out a way. I can't see them falling to 2-3. I'll give the Broncos the win. I'll say 23-17.
All right, so barely, but you're giving them the win. One score.
It's not going to be a fun game. I can
Well,
tell you that.
Drew's also right there with you as he's got the Broncos winning in a shitty-ass game. 16-7 Broncos. Definitely the
That
worst
sounds
score
probably,
of all of us.
Sounds probably more accurate. Go ahead, James.
I don't like any of these teams. Again, another primetime shit game. Jonathan Taylor, is he going to play? Leonard on defense is out. Every time you think the Indianapolis Colts can get better, I think they take 10 steps back. Wentz, then Matt Ryan, which I thought Matt Ryan was going to flourish in this offense.
Rivers.
With all the Rivers with all these weapons and the best offensive line, and they can't do a damn thing. That I had the Broncos win this game 27-23. It's a little high, I think, for a Thursday night game, but it's going to be an awful game to watch.
All right.
Could agree more. All right. Sunday Night Football.
Sunday Night Football. This is the game we're all watching, guys. This is the game that is, as I said, it's the circle. It's the circle game. This is circled on everybody's calendar. This is one of those games that we need to sit back and really count our blessings at the end, because I think we're going to be able to pull it out. That offensive line has looked like trash.
You're talking about the
Bengals. For the Bengals.
Yeah, okay.
The offensive line has looked like trash. I think we have something to prove. We're going to want to put points on the board, but I don't think we're going to do it as much as we want to. And I think they're going to be able to stop Joe Burrow, and it's going to come down to one man. One Justin Tucker is going to win us the game.
Yeah.
24-21 Ravens. Very close game. We're gonna get to Burrow. We're gonna get to him. There's gonna be, I think Mixon's gonna be able to run the ball. We haven't always done great against him. There's a history. I think it's gonna happen, but it's gonna be a close game.
I wish I was as confident as you. Listen.
Did you
I
not
understand
hear how close I said it was going to be.
I understand that their offensive line is trash, but our edge rushers have been worse
Depleted.
trash. I mean, it's been really bad mainly because of the injuries. I'm going to need to see who's back, who's healthy, and I'm going to need to see that pass rush gets better when these players are back. I need to see it first before I believe in it.
Okay.
We've got a great roster on paper. There's a lot of statistics
Fair
there.
enough.
When you think of JPP and you think of Calais Campbell and you think of Justin Houston, three guys with over 100 sacks or right around 100 sacks in their career. There's a ton of there, but they're all in the back half of their career at this point and by a long shot. And then, again, you got Owe playing out of position, and does Bowser come back? And
It's the G line. Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
The geriatric line.
If Burrow is given time, I think these wide receivers shred our defense. As much as this game, like you said, was circled on the calendar, and I think the secondary specifically is completely embarrassed by their showing last year, both times.
As they should be.
As they should be. I still look at what I see out of Marcus Peters, who's still coming back from the injury. He does not look like he has the explosive speed. He can play the underneath routes because his football IQ is high and he can keep somebody in front of him. That's fine. But we all know Burrow. We all know Burrow's got the arm strength. We all know that this class of wide receivers have speed. This is going to be another track meet. This is going to be another Dolphins game where you're going to have two receivers over 100 yards for the Bengals in this game. More than likely Chase and more than likely Higgins. That's what you're going to see out of this. Or it could even be Tyler Boyd because we know he shredded us in the past before too.
Yeah.
I think offensively we can hang with them. So we'll be in this game. But I just don't feel confident. I don't, man. I'm going to go Bengals. I think Bengals win this one 31-27.
Ouch. All right. James,
Drew, just so we know, Drew does agree with you. Now, he doesn't agree by much. He's another one that was probably a coin toss on this because he's got the Ravens win this one 31-30, and as close a game as you can get by a 1-point margin. James, what do you got happening?
I hope I'm completely wrong, but like I said in the past, speed kills. Guys that can catch balls kills. Guys that can't wrap up and tackle kills. So I have the Bengals winning this game 41-35. If this is when I look on the schedule and I see if we can only win 2 games, I just hope it's always the leader of the pack of this division. And now it's the Bengals. It's not the Steelers. And being on all the chats and all these Bengals fans just come out like they're like cockroaches. You know, you don't see them for like years, and then all of a sudden the lights come on, they just take off and they go everywhere, and they're everywhere, social media, on Facebook.
Their fans haven't had anything to cheer about for an entire generation.
They don't talk anything about the Cincinnati Reds.
Right.
No, but they bring up the Bengals and they show off their shitty fucking championship ring. Like, who gives a shit?
Oh, come on. Those fucking Color Rush uniforms were fire, though. Did you see that?
No,
all white. They were nice.
That's cool.
They were
Well,
clean.
did you see the picture next to him?
Fred,
Somebody took a picture of zebra cakes and put it next to him.
Fred,
My favorite thing. I love zebra cakes.
Fred, it doesn't matter. It's just like me when we play golf. I look good. But if I don't perform, it doesn't fucking matter.
You don't
know
follow
what I
by
mean?
the Deion Sanders mantra? Look good, feel good,
No,
play
I do.
good?
I say that. But this is one of the games, the two games, like if we only win 2 games out of the whole year, it's against the Bengals or the Steelers. And like I fucking can't stand this shit. But they're just too good on weapon-wise. If their offensive line can like block and no one can get to the quarterback, Burrow is going to be just lighting cigars up on the sideline and just smoking them, dude, because they're fast.
Yeah.
Jamal Chase, you know, you have that guy now. You know how he's going to put up some points this week for you. And Boyd and Mixon, once he gets through that line, he's off, dude. So I'm just hoping, but I have Bengals winning 41-35. I think the Ravens can put up points too. It's just, you know, coming down to it.
The other thing with Burrow is he's a confidence player, right?
Yeah.
And I know he's not, you know, off to the great start that he wanted for the year and that we all kind of expected them to have. But there's no reason
He knows
for
how he
Joe
played
Burrow
last year.
to not come in this game uber confident. Just with the
All that
outfit,
he
the drip,
says.
he's going to come in some ridiculous looking outfit.
Yeah.
He's going to be Joe Cool. You might, like you said, you might be smoking a cigar after the game. I hate this feeling that I have, and I hate the fact that I'm going to go to this game and I feel like I'm going to be disappointed and they're going to lose. But this is one of those games. I really, really hope I'm wrong. I hope the Ravens figured it out.
Yeah.
I hope they get him on his ass and embarrass the Bengals like they did last year to us. I hope that's the case. I just can't
Sherry
see it.
says flatten his ass.
Yeah.
Chuck says Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Joe Mama, doesn't matter. Ravens by 6, 32-26, but Ravens ahead 22-7 at the half.
Nice right now.
Yeah, so that's probably the more accurate prediction. I was going to say Nick Short said Ravens go up by 2 touchdowns against the Bengals and then lose by 3.
Yeah.
That sounds more like 2022 to me.
Sherry says 27-24 Ravens. So everybody
Look,
is
we
is
all
in
have it
agreement.
close.
This is going to be a damn close game.
We all have it close.
So we'll see what happens. But all right, Monday night.
yeah, Monday Night Football.
This is probably the one that is like, okay, this could be really interesting or this could be really, really shitty and lopsided.
Yeah, you got division rivals. The Raiders at 1-3 right now and kind of reeling. Like I honestly, I thought for whatever reason in my head, the whole Derek Carr and Devontae Adams thing, I thought it would click and they go right back to like their college days and things would all be fucking happy-go-lucky and they'd be throwing
It ain't hunky-dory.
touchdowns left and right. But things are not going great right now for the Raiders through 4 games against
Nothing's going great in Vegas. What are you talking about?
Right, yeah, right. Nothing is good in Vegas. But the Chiefs, sitting at 3-1, singing a very different tune right now. I mean, obviously, they just absolutely manhandled Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football, right? You know, we talked about with them, they're missing that, like, explosive player, the yak guy in Tyreek Hill, and the offense just hasn't looked right. They looked right last night. They were able to figure it out. Patrick Mahomes looked like the old Patrick Mahomes of old. And like I said, they ended up sticking it to Tampa Bay last night. I think the Chiefs can win this without question. I've got them winning 33-24.
Clean sweep across the board. Everybody's got the Chiefs. I've got this being, I said it could be really interesting or it could be really bad. It's going to be really great for me and my fantasy teams. 42-17 Chiefs.
You want Juju Smith-Schuster? We can talk after the show.
I have him in one of my leagues.
Give him for the cool price of a first-round pick.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. Maybe. And Drew's also got a close score to me. He's got 42-20, so not far off from me. James, what do you got in this game?
I have this game, and just to let you know, Fred, it wasn't last night. It was the Rams 49ers.
Oh, yeah, I'm
So
sorry. It was Sunday night, right, yeah.
But, yeah, and I thought I was going to get a thank you from Scott over there telling him to put Tom Brady in, to help me beat me this week, but I didn't get that. I didn't get no thank you, no nothing. But I have to choose.
Because I always do it at 12:30. You just wanted an excuse in case you lost.
No. I'm just helping out. I like to have everything fair on the board. But I have the Chiefs winning this game 45-37. It should be a good high-scoring game. If not one side or the other, it should be high-scoring. So I just like the Chiefs.
He says fair on the board, by the way, but his starting QB is Marcus Mariota.
All right, James, it's time for a social media shout-out. Who's been in the chat room? Who's chatting it up?
Well, we hit 100 comments very quickly on this game of the Ravens.
I'm sure.
Thank you, Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo, for giving us that.
Thanks,
for us
Chuck.
Everybody's going to be opinionated on a game that they should have won and lost yet again.
Yeah, that's how I think this season's going to be.
Could be.
But first off, Stephanie Summers, number one in the room.
Hey-o. Summers are cleaning up,
Yeah.
man.
All right.
Golly.
Sharon Sherry was number 2.
What's up, Sherry?
Chuck Summer was number 3. Steven Seaver, Joshua Garnett. Good to see you in the chat, Garnett.
Yeah, man.
John Googs, as always. Samuel Jackson, Rick Garrett, Jacob Paul, Nick Short, Deshaun Chandler, R.N. Flag, Joe Carlozo, and Gregory Cummings.
Nice.
All in the chat. So thank you, everybody. If I miss anybody, just let me know, but we appreciate it.
Any good comments?
The sad part is, I don't know if I'm a homer or what, but Garnett hit the most of my my marks in the chat. So the first one I'm going to put up is from Joshua. How can Baltimore have so many Pro Bowlers on defense and be so bad?
It's easy because Pro Bowls don't mean shit.
Well,
That's probably what the flag
I know what you mean.
a lot of these guys, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the Pro Bowlers are on the back half of their career. Some of them are coming off of injuries, and the coaching hasn't been very good.
No.
Another one, Sean. Did we all see when Andrews and Likely was running the same route on the same side of the field? Sounds like the show Roman sucks with pass plays.
We've seen, again, so this comes back to, is it a communication issue in the huddle that these guys are running the same routes? Is it a concept thing that Roman just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing? I don't know the answer to that because we're not privy to know what the play calls and what the playbook looks like. But, yeah, this happens at least once a game.
Yeah.
And then this is from Garnett also, was talking about, I'm not making excuses for him. We have multiple candidates that were very, very great resume, but due to the nepotism, we chosen him. They're talking about Daniel.
Oh, no, 100%. That's what I was talking about before.
Real 100.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before, was the fact that, like, to me, on paper and in person to the eye test, this guy had done nothing. I understand he was part of the Ravens organization, but he had done nothing to prove that he could run and develop a defense.
He was the only thing with that is, though, he was the next in line before Wink left and before he left to go to Michigan. He was the next in line to be the defensive coordinator. That had already been lined up and ready. He went to Michigan and then came back. So the plan was always, it wasn't that they just were like, well, let's revert back to something that's more comfortable. The plan was always for McDonald to be the defensive coordinator whenever Wink moved on. I think it happened a little faster than Harbaugh expected it to happen.
Yeah.
So he's only gone for a year.
So to James's point, we don't know what that conversation looked like if Wink did bring up something.
Anything else?
No, that was it. Like I said, chatting it up in the room.
Okay.
Probably next week, if we get another loss, it's going to be even 100, within 2 seconds of the show.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Or if we win, it's going to be 102 seconds as well because it's a rivalry and we have something to prove. So.
John Googs did chime in the last bit of the predictions. He said 30-28 Ravens. We actually used Tucker to win Sunday. Same thing I said.
All right. I hope you're right.
We use them every Sunday just to kick off, an extra point.
All right, fellas, let's chop it up about some Orioles, man, because It's been a fun season, man. As they sit right now, 82-78 on the year,
How about them O's?
securing a above 500 season.
Secured a winning season.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like we talked about earlier, they're officially eliminated from playoff contention, so that stress goes away. And they've got 3 games in a series with the Jays right now at home, which was postponed tonight. They'll be doing a doubleheader starting tomorrow at 12:35. But, I mean, kudos to the team, man, just to be able to, again, to make a 30-plus game turnaround from where they were last year. Nobody predicted it. Nobody thought they would do it. I know Carlozo said, I think they're going to be 500, and he's probably the closest one to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, is that everybody looked at this bunch and said it feels ragtag, but it feels like there's some bright spots in that ragtag, right?
100%.
And all of a sudden, we started to see this ragtag group, like, they came out of the gate looking against Tampa Bay.
Right.
But
really the first month. Yeah.
But then things just started clicking, right? And it really started to transfer. And you have guys that have, like last year, Seti, good season last year. Great season last year.
Great season last year.
Good season this year.
Yeah, very good. This is what he did this year is what I would normally expect out of Cedric Mullins. I thought last year his average was an anomaly. Ideally, would you like him somewhere in the middle of that, around that like 300 mark maybe? Yeah, that would be fucking fantastic. But
290 would be fine.
Yeah, 280, 290, somewhere around there would be fantastic. But the one thing that didn't drop off from last year to this year, stolen bases, is actually him and Jorge Mateo right now 1 and 2 in the MLB in stolen bases at 34 and 35. It's the first time since 1992 that teammates have led the league. It's pretty fucking impressive. That's 30 years.
That's amazing, and it just goes to show you that there's value. We talked about Seti and what he brought to the table last year, and it was, okay, can he repeat? Well, he didn't quite repeat, but he still has. I think he's got over 20 home runs and over 30 stolen bases. So it's still a 20-30 season. I'm fine with that.
I don't know if he has 20 home runs. I think he's just a little short of 20 home runs.
Is he? Maybe. I thought he had 20.
I don't know. Can you look that up for us, James?
I got you.
But yeah, either way, to your point, the two of them have really gelled. And ultimately, this whole team is gelled, and it comes down to one guy.
Well, you mentioned the shitty start in April, and then things kind of coming together in May.
Around a certain time.
Around a certain debut, when Adley Rutschman finally got the call, he ends up winning the most valuable Oriole award.
It smells valuable.
Said he has 16.
16.
He got 16, okay. But yeah, Adley Rutschman.
He had a shot at 20, but that's still not bad.
The most valuable Oriole award, 3rd ever rookie Oriole to win the award. Did it in 111 games so far since being called up in May. I go back to that debut, though, man, because I was there for the debut game. And just, there's certain players that, that make it, and it's a business or it's about the money kind of thing. You could just get a sense of just how competitive this guy and how much
he loves baseball.
How much he loves baseball and what it meant to him to finally make it there. I remember him walking out in the field and doing a once-over. As soon as he got behind home plate and he just kind of looks around and takes in the moment for a minute before he puts his helmet on.
You watch him right
stuff.
Before the helmet goes down, he takes a deep breath of like,
yeah, we're here. Let's do this.
Let's go.
It's just cool, man. This guy is an absolute
force. And you talk about another reason, and I know we're going to get into some of the stats and stuff, but another reason that this kid absolutely fucking deserved it. What have we heard from every fucking pitcher on the team?
Yep.
They love that this kid comes out and greets them like they're in a high school game and it's high school playoffs. Every game.
Yep.
Every outing, every inning, no matter what the hell happened in the inning, he comes out, and if it was a good inning, he's out there, he's cheering. He's their cheerleader at that point. Even if it's a bad inning, he's out there, he taps him. Sorry, buddy, let's go. Come on.
Yep.
Like, you just see it. He's built different.
Yep.
He is truly built different, physically and mentally. There's a reason he was the most valuable Oriole, and it's for the stat line, but it's also for what he does for this team.
But
mentally.
I think all of that correlates and it all adds up to his impact in just one simple stat, and that comes to wins and losses. We talk about them being 82 and 78 right now, right? That's 4 games above 500. But when he catches, they are 53 and 38. That's 15 games above 500 when he catches, right? So all of the things, it's all about a comfort level that the pitchers have with him, one. It's two, his ability to frame a pitch. It's his ability to call a game. It's all the things, and his ability to obviously keep base runners honest and all. It's all of those things collectively that that just goes to show how important the catching position is to a baseball team's success. And this isn't just us saying this because it's
Shut up, James. You're outnumbered.
Keep the comments to yourself, James. But it's true because you can just see it in that simple stat. 4 games above 500 for the year. 15 games above 500 when he catches.
Yeah, it's a huge. I thought they DH'd him way too much. There were too many times that he was DH'd, and I know some of it was breaks from the behind the plate.
This is the most baseball that he's ever played in his career.
And I get that, but sometimes I feel like Chirinos wasn't the guy to be there in that situation or in that game. And not saying they would have done any better, but the numbers tell you that he would have. I mean, look at his stat line, right? In 466 plate appearances, well, we were talking earlier, the average doesn't blow you out of the water, right? 256. Okay. 13 home runs. 35 doubles for a catcher.
Yeah. He broke Cal Ripken's rookie record of 32.
Yeah. Then you have the one triple, okay? 65 walks.
Yep.
In 466 plate appearances.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty damn good.
365 on base percentage. So when you look at that average, you said 256, 365. That's 1.1 better on base percentage than it is his average, and that just correlates with the amount of walks. So this guy, this is another thing, another way that he impacts the game is I talked about before, the big factor that this lineup was missing was a guy like a Brian Roberts used to back in the day, when he would extend at bats, foul pitches off, close pitches, work the count, get the count in your favor, those types of things, situational type hitting. He does all of those things, and you saw it get better and better and better as the year went on. Yeah,
and we talk about what he brings to the table. We've talked about the stat line there, but you were kind of analyzing some of the factors that we talk about with things like WAR. What did you find when you were looking at his WAR for this year?
Somebody had put a post on Twitter about all this. His overall WAR, first on the team, 5.2. His fielding WAR, first on the team, 5.1. His batting average, even at 250, 256 or whatever it is, third on the team. On base percentage, first on the team. On base plus slugging percentage, first on the team. First in doubles, first in bases on balls.
Your catcher out-doubled your center fielder and your shortstop.
Right. And he did all this in 466 plate appearances. Did it all with one less month than your everyday players.
Yeah.
That have been there since the start.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to show you, you kind of pulled this together, but so credit to you when you look at rookie catchers, WAR for rookie catchers in their rookie season.
All time.
Top guy, Mike Piazza, 7.4.
And that's like completely absurd and unheard of.
And makes complete sense with the way he played.
Right.
Number 2, again, this one makes complete sense. Carlton Fisk, 6.6. Thurman Munson, 5.0. Again, this is overall WAR. Adley, this was, I think this may not include a little bit of the recent stats. I don't know when this was pulled. 4.8.
Yep.
He is 4th all-time in catchers for rookie all-time WARs in their rookie season.
You got guys like Johnny Bench behind him, Wilson Ramos, Buster Posey. You got all kinds of guys behind him. When you're talking some of the elite catchers, some of the best of the best.
Even some of the best that are like the guy that's getting ready to retire. Yadier Molina is not even in the top 10 on this list.
Right, exactly. That was really cool, mind you, how they handled that whole situation.
Thank you.
I thought that was really cool. I didn't get a chance to text
Drew,
that
you're
back
a
to the group. So if you didn't see this yet, right, so it's been well known that the three mainstays for the Cardinals were going to retire this year. You got Adam Wainwright, you got Albert Pujols, and you got Yadier Molina. And Adam Wainwright was pitching the other day. Albert Pujols was out playing first, and Yadier Molina was catching. Well, when it came time to pull Adam Wainwright from the game, the manager comes out, walks up to pull him out of the game. Yadier walks up to the mound as he would as a catcher. Albert Pujols walks up to smack him on the back. But not only does he pull out Adam Wainwright, he pulls out all three guys together so they can collectively walk off the field together.
In the last in-season home game for the Cardinals.
Right, and get the ovation that they deserve. I thought that was a really cool thing, and you don't see that very often. And those are three legends in St. Louis.
But back to Adley, I mean, we're sitting here talking about legends. We're talking about, legend catchers, Hall of Fame catchers that are on that list that we just mentioned. And one of the things that we talked about kind of midway through the season, we saw him starting to hit his stride offensively, defense. He never missed a stride defensively as far as I was concerned. We weren't calling for his head with pass balls and shit like that or calling the game. The question is, I'm going to ask you, can he beat out Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners for AL Rookie of the Year?
I think he can. The average is the one big question that they're going to compare. But again, if they're judging this and basing this off of total impact that the player has made. Now listen, Julio Rodriguez has got a great case. The Mariners just made the playoffs, right? And they would not have been in the playoffs without Julio Rodriguez.
Nope, 100%.
But you can also say the same thing about
we wouldn't have been in the hunt without Adley.
The Orioles would not be in the hunt and would not be in the situation. It would not have made a 30-game swing over last year. I don't think he'll win it. Does he have a case to win it? Yes. But either way, he'll be in that. Remember, we talked about he loses a year of control if he finishes in the top two of the rookie of the year standings. Right. That's where I think he'll be. I think he'll finish second right behind Julio.
I think he will too. And you know what? I don't care because I think they lock him up in this offseason anyway. I hope so. Yeah. But yeah, I think to that point, I think it makes sense. It's one thing that we expected him to do well. I don't know that any of us could have predicted the overall impact. We thought the impact was going to be at the bat. We said control the game with the pitchers.
Right.
But the overall impact and the direct correlation to when he came up to when this team started to perform better, it's head and shoulders.
Don't worry, we'll get one next year.
Get one what?
One Rookie of the Year next year.
Well, yeah. Okay, so that's the next guy that I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad you actually brought it up that way because Gunnar Henderson ends up winning Baseball America's Minor League Player of the Year award, which that award goes back to 1981. Matt Wieters, the only other Oriole to ever win that award in those 41 years.
Yep.
Also, MLB Pipeline's Hitting Prospect of the Year. So he's racking up the awards in the minor leagues. This year in the majors, hit 250, 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, had a stolen base, showed his versatility, being able to play all over the infield. I mean, second base, shortstop, third base, he can play everywhere.
Too.
He just got to do that legally.
Yeah, right. 21 years old. This dude is an absolute phenom. So you've got the top 2 picks from 2019, both at the major league level right now, thriving. And to your point, James, right? So he hasn't played in enough games and he hasn't had enough at bats in this season. So he will still qualify for the potential Rookie of the Year next year. And he has got to be the absolute front runner heading into the year.
I don't know why he wouldn't be. Yeah. I know that there were 2 guys, one for
Texas.
The Texas kid, and then the guy that the Mets also just brought up. That are
the
both,
other catcher.
Yeah, that are both. That are
I'm
like
not worried
both.
about it.
I'm not necessarily either, but I'm saying like they're both top tier players that ultimately, if they can live up to the hype. It can be a very similar hype to an Adley or to a Julio Rodriguez.
After the small sample size that I saw, there will be, before the season starts, I'm putting my money on Gunnar winning the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I would easily. To me, that's a pretty easy bet. And bearing injury, that he should win that award, no problem.
The guy looks insane, dude.
that's the biggest question mark for Gunnar Henderson. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Is where does he end up playing?
Star that question from Adit. We'll get back to that. Adit, we'll get to your question. That's a good question, and it kind of leads into one of the things we're talking about.
But like I said, he does win the pipeline hitting prospect of the year. So just to look, I gave you his major league stats. To look at his minor league stats this year combined through the two leagues, AA and AAA, 503 plate appearances. He hit .297, had 24 doubles, 19 home runs, 7 triples, 76 RBIs, 22 stolen bases, only caught 3 times. When we talk about a guy that can absolutely do it all, that is Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah,
he's a
five-tool player.
He is a five-tool player. He's got the arm. He's got the speed. He's everything. He's got average. He can hit for power. He can do it all. And again,
smart too.
He's still young. He's 21 years old. He has not grown into his full-blown man body yet. I remember talking about like Manny Machado when he first came up, and like, you know, he was a big guy, but he was kind of lanky. He was kind of, skinny. I was like, God, give him another year or two when he actually grows into a man. All those doubles that he's hitting are going to turn into home runs. And what happened? All those doubles started turning into home runs, and we all know what Manny Machado is now. Gunnar Henderson can be that same type of guy, but I think he can be an even better player overall.
Yeah, I've been disappointed that they haven't been using him as much as I thought they should have. He's been out of the lineup a little too many times as far as I was concerned. I'd like to see a larger sample size. But to that point, at this point, you have seen enough. Maybe you're sitting here going, okay, let's bring somebody else up, let him have a shot. But,
so that brings me to my next question. We'll stick with Gunnar Henderson, right? So, like I said, played all over the infield, second base, shortstop, third base, has the arm to play wherever the fuck he wants. He can play wherever he wants. His arm's absolutely absurd. So the question is, where does Gunnar Henderson end up sticking? Because right now, I think the biggest question is the middle of the infield. The middle of the infield could really get shaken up, right? Because more than likely, Rougned Odor, he gone.
I don't think so. They need a translator.
Out the door. Need a translator. Yeah. I think he's gone. So does Gunnar stay at second? Does he go to short, where you've got Jorge Mateo, who currently playing short? Do they put Gunnar at short? Do they move Jorge Mateo over to second base? You got Terran Vavra, right, who got called up. This is the guy I'm frustrated with, didn't get enough play when he was up here. He's a higher average guy, a higher on-base guy, doesn't hit for a whole lot of power. His arm is very limited, so he would be a more second base. He's pigeonholed to second base. Yeah. So does Gunnar then, if you're putting Vavra at second base, do you put Gunnar at third and keep Jorge Mateo at short? Do you not have Jorge Mateo there? Like, there's a lot of options. And then on top of that, you got Connor Norby down in the minors right now. 279, led the Orioles minor leagues in home runs this year, 29 home runs, 23 doubles, 360 on base percentage, and an 886 on base plus slugging percentage, OPS. You got him knocking on the door.
Yep.
And he is a legitimate second base prospect.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options there that I don't know. Obviously, Gunnar's going to be in one of those spots, but just don't know where.
So I know where.
Okay. Lay it out.
He will be our everyday starting shortstop, and here's why.
Okay.
You need someone. You have to have someone this year coming up, 2023. The new rule comes into play. No more shifts. You have to be able to field your position, which you can do, which means you need somebody at short with an arm.
Okay. Jorge Mateo checks those boxes as well.
I think Gunnar's arm is better.
It's marginal, but so this is why I wanted to have this conversation.
Okay, that's fine.
So
that's fine.
I think defensively, if you're talking about shortstop, I don't think there's a large gap of difference between those two. Jorge might have a little bit more range, I think, than Gunnar, and I'm not saying, again, it's not a large gap, but I think he has a little bit more range. Obviously, the big benefit to Gunnar is what he brings offensively over Jorge, right? So
fair enough.
If Jorge's only opportunity to start is at shortstop by moving Gunnar somewhere else, I don't know if that's the route I go. I'd rather have Jorge become that super utility guy that can play all over the infield and can rest somebody when you need him to be, and Gunnar be your shortstop.
So I'm saying he's going to be a shortstop, and that's where I was going with it. I think Mateo is going to be a super utility guy unless somebody wants it, because he can play. I think Mateo could actually, if you worked with him a little bit, he could play outfield too.
Oh, yeah.
Very easily.
Yeah.
But
Ryan Flaherty kind of guy.
Yes. So here's the kicker.
With ridiculous speed.
I want you to think about what was so great back in 2014. What did we have in that middle infield?
Fans.
J.J. Hardy.
And?
14. Who do we have? Scope.
Mm-hmm. What were they one of the best?
Double play.
Because of the arm strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
From both guys.
I don't think Hardy has arm strength.
Hardy had arm strength. It was underrated arm strength.
He got the ball out quick.
He got the ball out quick, yeah.
But that's part of the factor is if you can get the ball out quick, that helps. Especially on double plays.
Finish your point.
My point is, I get what you're saying about all of these guys. And at some point, I think they'll be there. And biting something crazy happening, I do think Mateo gets a contract with us. And I do think he starts the season as your everyday second baseman. Because being able to turn the double play when the bases are closer. Remember, that's the other kicker to this. Now you have both sides of the infield that you can't shift. Mm-hmm. And the bases are 3 inches larger, which means those bang plays now, stronger arm is that much more important. So while I get what you're saying about Vavra, you admitted his arm strength, he's pigeonholed. But if I have a guy like a Mateo that can have the arm strength of a shortstop, those bang plays on a double play between two guys with solid arm strength, it becomes what we saw, if not better than those double plays we saw in 2014.
So I agree with you. I think Vavra ends up being the odd guy out. Because
I agree.
I love what Vavra brings in on base percentage. I think he's a good average hitter, but he's just very lacking in the power department. And this lineup needs more power in it. And I think they want a little bit of power, at least from second base. So that's where I'm back and forth on Jorge Mateo or even Connor Norby. Because Connor Norby, coming up through the minor leagues, he led the Orioles minor league system with 29 home runs this year. So this dude's got pop, right? And he's another one that can hit around that like 270, 280 mark. The problem I have with Jorge Mateo starting every day is he's going to be around that 215, 220 average hitter, right? Great defender, great defensively. And that's where I think the whole super utility thing comes into play, and that's where I think his role is more valuable, because there's not going to be a huge drop-off if somebody needs to take a blow, and he can play in all of these positions around the infield, especially, like you said, he's got the arm strength, he's got the defensive range, he's got all those things, so I think that's where his role is valuable. But having a guy with a little bit more pop and that hits for higher average in the everyday lineup at second base, I think is more appealing to me. That's why I think Norby might be the guy.
I agree with you, minus the fact that I think there's one factor you're not taking into account that we mentioned earlier.
What's that?
His speed is undeniable.
No doubt.
So you're taking speed. Remember that. If you're going to talk about adding power, you're taking speed out of the lineup to add power.
Now,
Hopefully add power.
Norby isn't slow. He had almost 20 stolen bases. So
he ain't no Jorge Mateo, though.
No, nobody's a Jorge Mateo. Only
that's my point.
Jorge Mateo.
That's my point, though. It is by pigeonholing him and saying you're only going to be a super utility guy. Now, okay, he can get some spot starts, and I guess he can be in there, but I just think his speed is a factor. And if you need to, if that is the case, then we haven't talked about third base yet, but you could move Gunnar over to third and put Jorge at short, like you were saying before. Yeah. There's some different things and different ways we can go. It's going to be interesting this offseason, because this offseason will dictate a lot of those things. Do we see them go get a Carlos Correa? right?
Well, that's another whole element that we haven't even discussed.
That's what I'm
yet.
saying. There's
a whole
folds
other
to
thing
this.
that could happen. Go ahead, James.
Real quick, I'm with like Fred. If Mateo had the bat and had the looks or whatever, I have Mateo at shortstop. But Gunnar, and like I said, seeing him up here, he looks like he owns his fucking team. Like when he goes out there, he especially when he stole that ball and hit second and threw it to first when the shortstop or the second baseman was
He
like,
told
I'm
Odor to move out of the way.
I'm right here. He takes control. So, and he's got the bat. So I see Gunnar at short. Mateo could probably play shortstop. I mean, not shortstop, third base, and he's got the range, the speed to cover too.
All right, we hadn't gotten there yet.
And the arm. So I would like that. But Gunnar, when people look at a team, they look at that shortstop. You know, back in the day, it was Kabrick, and then you had like the A-Rods, the Jeters. Yeah. Gunnar could be that guy. He's tall, big, and he puts some pounds on, and he has the bat.
So I think
that's your stud out there.
I think we're all in agreement that
Gunnar is short.
Gunnar ends up at shortstop. I think that makes the most sense for him, bearing that they bring in a Carlos Correa or somebody from the in the offseason.
Correa and Gunnar at second.
That would be unreal. But if, in my opinion, let's say they go Gunnar at short, and they go one combination of Norby and Mateo at second base. Maybe they platoon those guys. Maybe it's a lefty. Okay. Well, I guess they're not lefty. So it would just be a matchup situation or whatever. Or like I said, Mateo can kind of be that super utility guy. Then
give a guy a break every 3 days.
Who ends up playing third base? Does Mateo go over to third base, or do we see Jordan Westberg get the call out of spring training? Another guy who tore up the minor leagues this year. He was right. It was actually pretty entertaining to watch between Norby and Westberg at the end of the season, going back and forth for the home run lead. Like they were literally like, one would take the lead, the next one would tie it. One would take the lead, the next one would tie it. They were back and forth with it. So,
and that's what Drew said.
Did he? Yeah, and then Adit also I saw, he said, to me, Mateo is a tooled up Ryan Flaherty, exactly what I was saying. He's just, exactly, and I think that's his role. Does he accept that role here with the Orioles, or do you think maybe like there's another team out there that maybe that the Orioles trade for him to bring in some more prospects because he's got value now that he didn't have before?
And that's again, there's so many kickers that we can talk about here that, you know, they go and get a guy, they go grab somebody off another team by giving up. You know, we could see could a top tier player, infielder, whatever, come here for a team that's saying, hey, we want to build around him versus a guy that is ready right now.
Right.
Who knows? We'll have to see. We'll have to see what they do in the offseason. Because I'll tell you what, if they bring a Carlos Correa in, Gunnar's moving to third.
More than likely.
You're not paying Carlos Correa unless you're paying him to be DH, but then what are you doing with Santander? What are you doing with all these other guys? I think ultimately it just comes down to me. I think given what we have right now, I get what you guys are saying. You're talking about adding all this power to the lineup. We've been here before. You have to have a little bit of offset. And I'm not saying that those guys I'm not saying that they don't have it, but Mateo is next level speed. I think back to what the Twins did with Byron Buxton. Mm-hmm. They started taking him out of the lineup because they were having some defensive miscues. They started to hurt. They put him back in. I understand there's some miscues. I understand that. But you have to account for speed. And in a position, especially in that infield, we don't know how this is going to wind up looking next year with the larger bases, with the fact that you can't shift. There's so many different factors going into next year. I'm tentative. I'm going to say I can't argue against any combination that any of us could come up with.
No, I know, and none of us have the answers. It's just it's an interesting conversation because
it's a good conversation to be able
don't you hate having a problem?
No,
it's past. We never had a problem.
No, I know.
A solution.
And where it's even more convoluted for me is the rotation, right? We talk about the turnaround that this team has made this year, and I think honestly the biggest turnaround that this team has made is in the starting rotation.
Some of the biggest surprises.
I mean, when you look at these guys, right? You got Kyle Bradish, who when he first got called up this year did not start out great. He had one really good start against St. Louis, but his ERA, I mean, was way up there. Well, he's got his ERA now under 5 at 4.90 on the year.
Since he's come back, I think it's sub 3.5.
It's close to sub 3.5. Yep. He's 4-7 on the year, a 1.4 WHIP in 117 innings pitched. Right. Mm-hmm. You've got Jordan Lyles, who is at a 4.42 ERA, 12-11 on the year, 1.38 WHIP in 179 innings pitched.
Did his job.
Did everything that we expected him to do.
He was brought in as an innings eater, and he did it.
Yep.
170. He leads the team in innings pitched.
Yep. And he's got a club option.
Yeah.
So it's not a player option. It's a club option. They have a $1 million buyout on him. 100% the club is going to pick up that option. They'd be idiots not to pick it up. So Jordan Lyles is probably in a factor for next year's rotation. Dean Kramer, I think, has been the absolute biggest surprise of this rotation. And by far, he's got the best ERA out of the group. 3.23 ERA on the year, 8-7, a 1.25 ERA WHIP, and 125 innings pitched.
Kicker to this,
unreal turnaround.
Second half of the year, he's got a sub 3.
Yeah, it's incredible, the turnaround. Again, he wasn't even on my radar as a guy that was going to be a potential piece in the future rotation, but he could be a number 4 or 5 in this rotation.
He had easy. He had 3 out of 4 starts where he went 7+ innings.
Yeah.
3 out of 4 starts. I think his last start, he didn't go as far. But the point is the kid is figuring it out, and teams aren't able to adjust to him. I really am excited to see what he can do. Can he build on it? Can he develop another pitch? Or can he work and fine-tune his accuracy with the pitches he's got,
right,
and get some more swing and misses? Because that's all that was missing out of him this year.
Yep.
He was just missing the swing and misses. And it was so close. He wound up giving up some walks into some spots, but he wasn't giving up a lot of hits. When they were, it was hit right to him. So that means he's hitting his spots well.
Yep.
I just want to see a slight adjustment. Give me a little bit of every once in a while. I want to see that blow by him.
Yep.
Give me that blow by him pitch. Give me that strikeout pitch. And he could go so far.
Absolutely. And then you add a couple other guys into this mix. You got Tyler Wells at a 4.25 ERA, 7-7 on the year. Michael Ballman, 4.34 ERA, 1-3 on the year. Austin Voth came out of nowhere, 4.34 ERA, 5-4 on the year. Spencer Watkins, 4.76 ERA, 5-6 on the year. He had a kind of an up and down year, some really good starts, a couple bad starts. But then you factor in the guys who haven't contributed as starters yet this year, but are expected to be a part of the rotation next year. Grayson Rodriguez and John Means coming back from his injury, right?
Yep.
So, and then you add DL Hall into the mix, who we're not real sure if he's going to stick to the pen, if he's going to end up being in the rotation. He's got the stuff to be in the rotation. He's just got to figure out the command issues. That can't be a continued problem. So he's got to clean that up. But you're looking at 10 names out of all the guys that I just named for 5 rotation spots. And that's without adding anybody else. That's just on who we have going into the year. So give me your locks. I'll give you mine real quick. My locks for the rotation of next year. Grayson Rodriguez, I think day one he is in the rotation. I'm not going in an order as like 1 through 5. I'm just giving you my locks.
Check.
Grayson Rodriguez. John Means is a lock. Jordan Lyles is a lock. Kyle Bradish is a lock. That's my 4 guys right now that are a lock. So you've got one spot out of Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, Michael Ballman, Austin Voth, Spencer Watkins, and DL Hall if they decide to make him a starter. If I had to pick one out of the group right now, Dean Kramer's got to be the front runner, and he might even slide in above Kyle Bradish because of what he's done so far this year.
So I'm gonna throw you here.
Go for it.
Locks. Grayson.
Okay.
Lyles.
Okay.
Bradish. Kramer.
Okay, so you're leaving John Means off.
I need to see what he does. you're coming off.
But you know when he comes back, if he's healthy, he's going to be good. It's what he needs to show you is
two seasons in a row he can't stay healthy.
That's my point. Can he show you that he can stick around for 100 to 150 plus innings in a year? Can he do that? He hasn't been able to do that for the last couple of years. But do you not just keep him in the rotation because he's had a bad run of injuries for the last couple of years? Because when he's on the mound, he's one of the better pitchers in the AL East.
He has been. Mm-hmm. You have guys that are.
Listen, I'm not going to go too far on these guys. We got some guys that have pitched above where I thought they'd be, but they're not in that 2 to 3 ERA that John Means has shown. We talked about John Means potentially in the Cy Young Award race earlier on in this year.
Before the injury, I agree. My thing here is, to me, the team probably is giving it to him. But for me, there's enough guys here that have done well, especially the second half of the season. They're fighting for a spot. They're fighting for it. And for me, I know that you put Kramer on the bubble. For me, Kramer has proved.
No, I didn't say he's in the bubble. I said he's the front runner for that number 5 spot.
And I'm telling you, I think he's a lock.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
So you're basically locking up the 5. So all of these guys, you're saying Wells, Ballman, Voth, Watkins, and Hall are all non-factors for the rotation for next year.
Unless something crazy happens.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. I just wanted to see if we were all on the same page. Go ahead, James.
I would put Means in the bullpen. Let him work some innings in, let him get feet wet, and then maybe towards the mid-season, towards the end, put him in the rotation if a guy goes down or whatever.
Working back up?
Yeah, working back in.
I don't hate that idea.
Like, you don't want to just throw him out there.
No, it's not that I hate it. I just think that John Means has earned the right, based on what he's done on the mound when he's on the mound, to be in the rotation. It's just, it's worrisome that he's going to have the same issue.
Between 3 years, he's missed almost a season worth of, or almost 2 seasons.
I get it. And that's obviously a big factor, but to not have him on the mound, a guy that, again, can be in that 2 to 3 ERA, that's already pitched in the AL East. We know he's tested. He's all up. A lot of these guys, the DL Halls of the world, Kyle Bradish, the Dean Kramers, yes, they've pitched here, but it's very small sample size.
But
we've seen John Means compete and do very good in this division.
Did, but Means didn't look that well after they decided to check the forearms for substance, because after that he had some shaky starts at the.
I will say that things turned around a little bit for him after that, but the MLB is also working on an approved substance that all the pitchers can use. Which they should to be consistent. So maybe that improves his game even that much more.
Just for you for those that have never played baseball at a higher level, a rosin bag does jack squat.
No, it doesn't do anything. Again, like Drew was saying, like I said earlier, it's a great problem to have. The rotation for me, if you want to single out like what was the biggest difference from last year to this year, you can single out two things. You can single out the rotation and Adley Rutschman. I was going to say 3, Gunnar, but Gunnar was a smaller sample size, so it wasn't as big as impact.
A little later.
But Adley, again, we talked about the numbers, 15 games above 500 when he catches, and what this rotation's doing. A bunch of guys in the low 4s and some in the 3 ERAs, guys that were just fucking basically given up on by other teams that we picked up and figured out a way. And that's kudos also to the pitching coaches and the development staff, which has been a point of emphasis and a point of complaint for us for years. Yeah. We're starting to see that finally get better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to and a lot to kind of go through that we'll uncover over the next several weeks. We got a long off season, right? So we'll talk more about this. We'll break down some other spots, but yeah, really truly excited to kind of see what this team does and how well they continue.
Wrong.
That would be the wrong button. That button's right there.
Can you clear that out?
Yeah, I can clear that out.
All right.
I'll hit the 2 minutes when we get there.
Do we even have 2 questions?
I got it.
You got it?
I got you. I got you guys. No surprises.
Oh, man. No boundaries. 2 topics, 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, fellas, it's time for the 2-minute warning. Apparently, I wanted to jump the gun on that and hit the bell to start.
Taking over my role again.
I know.
Yeah.
James, you got 2 questions?
Yes. So
apparently we were not prepared for this.
Yeah,
No.
I was prepared.
All right.
So
love it.
All right, now that the Orioles season is coming to the end, what is one thing that was great this year, awesome, that stood out in your memory, and what do you hope to have next forward? Oh, my bad.
I was waiting for the
I
bell.
just saw Fred's face like,
I was waiting for the bell.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mentioned it earlier. Adley Rutschman, the biggest difference maker, to live up to the hype. You know, there's always the worry is how is a guy going to respond in his first year? There's the struggles that the rookies had, which he did. He had struggles early on with hitting. But again, the total impact that he's had on this team, it's been huge. And I look forward to next year seeing the same type of results from Gunnar.
I'm right there in alignment with you. I think I've been pleasantly surprised by everything. I think to me, Adley, it's the on the field impact and the off the field, walking off the field impact. That wasn't something that I was expecting to see,
right.
And I love to see it. In the rotation, I think it truly helped them. The thing that I'm looking forward to the most is to see what this lineup looks like and can do next year. Because, woo, big things are coming.
Add a couple pieces, man. It can get real exciting.
all right, the second question, with all these like records being broken and stuff going on, what would be one thing that you would love have caught the ball or puck or football? What one thing that you would love to have be that person?
I would have. All right, I'm going to pull one out. I would have loved to have been in the spot, in the seat where Jeffrey Meyer sat in 1997 and caught that fucking home run instead of a Yankee fan.
I love it. Oh God, that's a good one. That's a really good
pull
one.
that one out.
I'd love. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm gonna. Drew's gonna hate me for this one. I'd love to have the puck or the stick that Ovi winds up breaking the record with.
That'd be pretty cool. That is
History that it's one of those ones that gets up there of like it's gonna get harder and harder for somebody to break it.
Yeah, I think he's got it in him to do it though.
Oh,
I mean,
I do. I do.
Yeah, he hasn't slowed down a bit. He might be gray as hell. He might look old, but that guy is still an absolute freak on the ice, man. He's
Puck is
just
still flying.
yeah, 100%. He's still one of the best goal scorers in the league.
Love it.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you tuning in, as always, every Tuesday night. Sorry for a little bit of a shit show tonight. We were not organized for this week's show. I think
weather.
I shut down. I'll be honest with you. I shut down after the Ravens game. It's a long weekend. I had
got
a
some
wedding
shit going
on. Scott's got things going on. We weren't real planned for it, so we were a little all over the
It was
place.
still a good show.
It wasn't a bad show. My brain just couldn't process things. I was jumping all over the place. I didn't have things to keep me in line, so I apologize for that. But we'll be back next Tuesday night, hopefully a little bit more prepared, hopefully to say that I was wrong and that the Ravens won and we can actually have a
That's right,
positive
damn it.
show and feeling good. I mean, we were 2-2
Where's
at one
that damn
point.
crow?
Yeah. We were 2-2 at one point in 2019 and then went on to win 12 games in a row. So never say never.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I know very different years, very different seasons, very different teams, but we'll see what happens.
Marshall.
What do you say?
What Judge's jockstrap from tonight?
What do you say?
What's Judge's jockstrap from tonight?
Or he
hilarious.
said,
Where's
you
Nick?
like Brady's last
The banana hammock.
Go ahead. Get us out of here.
But if you haven't already, make sure you check us out on all of our social media accounts. You can follow me at FredBLBS. You can follow Scott at ScottBLBS. You can follow James at JamesBond2032. You can follow even Drew if you want to at Drew27N if you're not already on Twitter. He likes to emotional tweet, just like he likes to emotional text. I have to shut the damn group chat down sometimes because I get so involved in all that.
Man.
But we'll be back next Tuesday night. For myself, Scott, James, and the rest of the crew who's not here, we'll see you guys.
See ya.
It's time for the after party.
Last call for alcohol.
All right, man.
This
This will be a quick one. It's 9:45.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
I know that there was one question that Adit had said, and I
got it.
oh, you got it? Go ahead. All to you. So he was like asking us to rank the job security. No, it's the one. Yeah, 2 off from that one. So he said, with the season over, how would you rate the job security of the following guys in their current roles next year on a scale of 1 to 5? And then he followed it up with saying 1 is, go ahead and hit that next one.
Yeah.
1 is least confident, 5 being most confident. So go ahead and bring the list back up. So the list starts with, it's Hayes, Mateo, Arias, McKenna. I would go Hayes. I would put that, what do we say? 5 is most confident. I put Hayes around a 4. I think defensively he provides you some strong stuff.
I would put that at a 2 or 3.
Really?
Yeah, because
who you going to replace him with?
I mean, they've got a ton of outfield bats, man. Colton Cowser is banging on the door. I know he's probably going to play center field when he gets here, but
okay.
I don't know, man. He was not himself for 3/4 of the year. He looked bad.
I think he messed up his arm some way, shape, or form. So we'll see how he comes back on that. Mateo, we talked about. I think that would be one that I would put as a solid 3 to 4. He's going to be on this team next year. As far as I'm concerned.
I think what he's asking though is how would you rate the job security of the following guys in their current roles? So
what
I
would you
say
define
that
his role as?
Right now he's a starting shortstop. So I'm saying next year he goes to more of that super utility.
Okay, so you would put
I would
more
say
of a 2.
a 2
Okay.
right now at his job security as to what he is right now.
Urias, I would say a 1.
0.
He's fallen off.
0.
Well, I don't even on the scale. I was trying to go with his scale.
I'm going 0. I don't even think he's with the team next year.
And the guy right behind him, that would be a 0. Ryan McKenna to me hasn't shown not much.
Yeah,
you got to in this.
I wouldn't
league,
put him in a 0. So I would put him at a 2 or 3 in his current role. And the only reason I say that is because a couple of things, right? So he can play all 3 outfield positions. He does give you speed. Later in the year, he showed a little bit more. When he got a little bit more playing time, he showed a little bit more consistency at the plate. He's got a better throwing arm than a lot of the outfielders that we have right now. So I think in his current role as like a 4th outfielder or 5th outfielder, maybe the only thing that would sway that more or less would be if, like I said, Hayes ends up being more of that role, and then McKenna's expendable at that point.
I was gonna say because that's the wrong button. What the hell? You replaced it and you didn't change the thing.
Oh, whatever.
Don't run on Hayes. That's where I was with it. Yeah. No. So, yeah, I just thought it was a good question because it's kind of along the lines of what we were talking. Some of the stuff that we were talking about. So, I know that a lot of people have kind of brought some things up and chatted in the chat room. I know we already kind of went over some of those.
I got one for you.
Good.
Is next year make or break for Brandon Hyde?
Is next year make or break for Brandon Hyde?
Yeah.
So Brandon Hyde is an interesting conversation.
Make or break
and I know.
how?
Hold on. I want to talk about Brandon Hyde for a minute because we've had this conversation a couple of times. Right? Is Brandon Hyde the guy to lead them into the future? Right? We all thought that Brandon Hyde was originally hired in to be the bridge gap.
Yeah.
That's all what we thought.
He was
right?
a player development guy.
Yeah, he was a guy never managed before. He was a guy that was just kind of, hey, we need somebody to deal with the younger guys and to just go through.
He did
this
well with it in
transition.
Chicago with Madden. Yeah.
So, like I said earlier this year, they're really up until a lot of the younger guys started coming up. I didn't really question a whole lot about Brandon Hyde's managerial decisions, his in-game decisions, the way he answered the media, handled the media, the way he handled his team. Like, I was actually a very pro Brandon Hyde guy for about 3/4 of this year.
Yep.
Where things started to change a little bit for me is once the younger guys started coming up and and you're in the thick of a playoff run and the questionable lineups that we saw and the questionable, why do you got these guys up here, these young guys, if you're not going to play them, the Stowers, the Vavers, the guys of the world. But like we've talked about before, what we don't know is, were those decisions Hyde decisions or were those decisions Elias decisions saying, hey, you've only got this guy for so many at-bats. You've only got this guy for so many games. Whatever it is, you need to figure out what that looks like, right? And Hyde tried to manage it that way. Or was it Hyde saying, nope, this is it. This is who I'm going with this game, trying to change it up, matchups, and all that stuff.
And that's the thing is we aren't privy to that. And I talked about it before. We heard Elias say whoever they were bringing in when they brought in Hyde and whoever winds up long-term with this team has to embrace the analytics. Has to.
Yeah.
So my question is, was that Hyde embracing the analytics? Was it, here's the analytics. This is the lineup you should be putting out there tonight based off of our stats and our numbers.
Right.
We don't know the inner workings of how that works. It could just be some very basic but strong analytics that says, hey, here's the matchups. You decipher and you put out the best lineup. But it also very well could be, I think Sig and Elias, as we've said, plan.
Yeah.
Part of that plan might be, here's what's here, right now, and here's the numbers. Go ahead, Brandon. You figure out what it should be. And Brandon's kind of going, you're putting the lineup in front of me and telling me to figure it out. Lineup for tonight. Right. We don't know, and that's the hard part.
So answer the question based on what you do know. So what we do know as fans about Brandon Hyde and how he handled this team this year.
He's deserved to see what he's got next year, but that's why I asked to define the statement of make or break. Are you saying World Series or nothing?
So is next year a playoff or bust?
Yeah, or like next year, these are our guys. This is what we're going to go for. We're going to bring someone in, whatever. This is what we're looking for. You know who we have. Is it you get an extension or they go in a different direction because it's here?
So there's a lot of questions to answer with that. I personally think Brandon Hyde's back here next year, no question about it. And I do.
Didn't he already get an extension?
Did he? I don't know.
Pretty sure he got an extension already.
Okay.
We'll look that up.
I do think that now the bar is set, right? You were this close to making a playoff berth with no outside additions, right? If they're going to do what they say that they're going to do in the offseason, they're actually going to spend some money. Some of that's going to be internal, and then some of that's going to be external. Then that bar gets raised a little higher, and I think that bar being raised a little higher is making the playoffs. So I do think that next year Brandon Hyde's managerial seat depends on them making the playoffs and continuing to show the progress of the plan that Elias has. I hope the X factor here is, like you were just saying, Mike Elias has had a plan since day one. Was that plan that Brandon Hyde was literally just to be the guy to get us to a point, and they're going to bring somebody else in, and they're sticking to that plan regardless of what Brandon Hyde's done this last year or two? Because in my heart, I want to say, well, you don't want to shake up the culture too much. You don't want to shake up the clubhouse too much because things are working right now. Things are vibing real good right now. And obviously the players believe in Brandon Hyde, and Brandon Hyde's got control of that locker room. You don't want to shake that up. But we could have said the same thing about, well, you don't want to trade away your veterans in Trey Mancini and Jorge
Mateo.
Lopez.
Oh, Jorge Lopez.
Couldn't think of his name. And they ended up trading those guys. So if the plan is, hey, we're going to trade away the veterans, and hey, we're going to make this managerial switch regardless of what he did, they may make that move.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here looking it up, and there were stories that were earlier this year that Hyde was under contract through 2023, but the details weren't there, and whether he was going to get, like, how long the extension was. But there's multiple reports saying that he is under contract beyond the 2022 season is how it's defined.
Right. So but it still begs the question that James is presenting is next year, which is 2023. Obviously that's his contract year, right? If that's what the internet's saying, if that's the end is next year, is playoffs the determining factor?
Or they go.
I mean, given this year, what we've had and what they're planning to do, they even admit that it wasn't what they expected this year, but they've got a plan. It might be fair to say that. It might be fair to say if you can't get us to the playoffs, then you're not the right person to lead us. Now, if there's any dip, so here's the deal. If there's any dip in record beyond a handful of games, meaning five or more from this year, he's no doubtably gone.
Yeah.
What needs to happen is I think it also depends on what is our in division. If we miss the division by one game and we miss the wild card by one game, tough division, tough wild card. I'd have to rethink that. I'd have to see how the season progresses. If at the end of the year I'm going, this motherfucker sat Stowers 25 times this year, then yeah, he's got to go. But if you've got the tools in front of you and you're using them and you make progress, I'm fine with it.
So you're basically saying if they win 85 games next year, 86 games next year, but they still miss the playoffs, that you're fine with him going.
I think
I'd showed progress.
That's when we start down that road. That's the part where I have to go. Okay,
I just
look at the overall picture, because I get what you're saying, but what if it's the Yankees that win the division? And I'm throwing this out there.
I understand what you're saying. You don't have to explain it. I understand what you're saying. But where I'm coming from is you've got Adley Rutschman now going into his first full actual season. Gunnar Henderson going into his full actual season. Grayson Rodriguez, number one pitching prospect, coming in, making his debut. Mm-hmm. All of those factors, and you're gaining an extra month. Think of how shitty April was, right?
Right, you're gaining an extra month with all those young talents.
All those young talents, on top of adding probably some extra external pieces this year, which they didn't have, right? That's why I think the expectation is going to be much higher. I understand what you're saying, like, oh, well, if we get back to where we are, or if we do a little bit better than we've done.
The expectations for fans is much higher. The expectation, we heard it from the front office. The front office did not anticipate this at all. This season did not go how they anticipated, which tells me they're like pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But they're reserved. They're not going to jump the gun simply because this team did what this team performs. Then in theory, to that point, they should be able to make a jump. Mm-hmm. But what if this year was an anomaly? What if everything just worked out just right this year? And it's an anomaly.
I would say that
in
a football season where it's 16 games or 17 games now, yeah, that would make sense. But in a 162 game season, I don't believe in anomalies with baseball. I don't. It's just too long of a season. If there were these stretches where they played really good baseball and then there were stretches where they played really bad baseball, then I'd be like, you know what, this is to be expected of a team like this. But they played collectively very good baseball pretty much the whole way through.
But you don't think he's deserved the shot that he took a team that was a losing team. Everybody agreed. Losing team, worst team in baseball. He took them in 1 year from 110 losses to an above 500 winning team, okay? If he's above 500 winning team next year, you don't think he deserves another shot to say, look, you took a team from the worst team in baseball to a team that has two winning seasons in a row.
I get it.
Competing for playoff spots. I think he deserves another shot at that point.
I'm not the one making the decision. That's my point is we don't know what Elias's vision and what Elias's plan has looked like. From my standpoint, yes, I think if that happens, 100% Hyde deserves an extension or deserves at least another year to look at things. I don't know what the other managerial options are that are out there. We've talked about Buck Britton coming up and all that, but we don't.
Coach is a former winner, Freddie Gonzalez,
but we don't know what that looks like. It's just there's a lot of factors into it. It's just like I said, what Elias has done so far is stick to the plan. They did that with getting rid of some of the veterans, even when they were playing really good baseball.
So you have to ask the question:
what's the plan?
Well, number one, what's the plan? And two, how much of Elias is to be credited, if you will, for this year? Like we all talk about Adley. Mm-hmm. how much of that might have been Elias and letting him have the freedom and being a coach, a player's coach.
Hey, Hyde, you mean?
Yeah, or Hyde. Yeah, sorry. But like, we don't know. Yeah. There's so many unknowns, and I get it, and I don't like to be wishy-washy. I want to make that statement, right? But I truly think the fact that they thought that they're looking at it and saying this year's an anomaly, to me, next year, the same or better is still a win.
Yeah.
The fact that you didn't think you were going to be here this year, you can't automatically, which is the fan side that goes, oh, well, they gotta jump, they gotta be better the next year.
I think all we can ask for as Oriole fans is to be in the conversation come the year's
We
end.
were talking about the Orioles. The Orioles were not statistically eliminated from playoffs this year until October 1st.
Right. But my point is, like, in a smaller market area, right, in a smaller market team, all we can expect as being a good, like, our ceiling of being a good franchise is being in the conversation every year. Not being the $200+ million guys that go out and buy every free agent that brings in, and they're in the World Series contender every year, like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox. We will never be that. But if we can be in the conversation like we were this year, every single year, that at the end of the season, we're a game away or we're this away, that to me is where Orioles baseball is going to thrive. And I think that's where they need to live. And then on the occasion, they'll have that year where they go on a run late in the year.
They got the right pieces this year.
And they could be in that World Series contention and all that stuff. That's the way they compete. They got to keep this talent pool coming in and continuing to build the farm system. Now that we've done it, right, and we've gotten a lot of the fruit to the fucking top, we need to keep building and keep bringing guys in so that this process can continually repeat itself. And that's the culture and that's the system that Elias is building. It'll never be that $150, $200 million contracts and all that stuff that it was years ago.
We're not buying 110 wins a year.
We're not. So I think, again, if the measuring stick is just being in contention for a playoff spot every year, then Brandon Hyde deserves to be,
as long as he's keeping it there.
As long as he's keeping it there.
Which was kind of my point, is it wasn't necessarily playoffs, but it's if he gets to within one game.
Right. We're in that conversation.
It comes down to the last game. That's why I'm saying there's more that I would assess at that point of, like, was I questioning him too many times throughout the season of going, we lost that game because so-and-so wasn't in the game, like I did at times this year.
Right.
We'll see.
All right, guys, we'll see. Oh, good.
Real quick, I know we didn't talk about it, but I just want to say thank you to Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Very good point.
But we're one of the best corners that we have seen. And
but he was healthy.
I understand he was healthy, but he was a shutdown corner.
Yeah,
so thank you, Jimmy, for all you did for the Raiders.
Yeah, you think about all the years of who he covered.
I make that joke because even he made the statement of, like, when I was healthy, I was,
Yeah, I mean, he said his body was breaking down, and that's ultimately why he decided to retire, was that his body was telling him no, he couldn't go anymore. He played 11 years. We talk about the average age or average life expectancy of a football player is, 3 years in the NFL or something?
3 to 5, yeah.
He played 11 years, and you got to remember some of the guys that he went up against. He was in his early days. It was oh my God, AJ Green. It was Antonio Brown. It was all the big guys in the division.
He got the better half of that situation.
And then in the latter half of his career, when he started slowing down, it was all the big body tight ends, all the guys that nobody else wanted to cover, right? So,
or guys in the slot.
I have a lot of respect for what Jimmy Smith has done for this organization, and not to mention, sorry, we should have talked about this earlier. And not to mention, he was a guy that a lot of teams passed on in the draft. He was a guy that, coming out of college, he went to Colorado. He had a lot of question marks about his personality and just the way he carries himself and off the field issues. And Jimmy did have a few off the field issues, but one of the things that I listened to in his press conference was he gave a lot of love and a lot of respect for John Harbaugh, in the way that John Harbaugh changed him into a man, took him from an immature boy player to a man. And it was the little things that made the difference. And you saw that over the course of Jimmy Smith's career as things started to straighten out and he took things more serious. He got in the weight room.
He started to become an example.
One of the strongest, one of the best built corners you'll ever see.
It helped in the Super Bowl.
And it helped them to win a Super Bowl, right? That's what he'll forever be known for, is he was one of the corners that got us that Super Bowl in 2012. So.
Yeah. 100%.
Kudos to
Good
Jimmy
call,
Smith,
James.
and
Good
good
call.
luck, man. Yeah, good luck with retirement. And I don't think he's a guy that we'll see back in coaching. He just doesn't seem like he's that kind of guy. But
Ring of Honor?
see what he does. Yeah, I think he could be a Ring of Honor guy. Absolutely.
Possibly,
yeah. I mean, he's got the statistics, and again,
He's well loved.
Yeah, shut down corner and very well respected within the community.
All right. We're
See
out of
you
here,
guys.
y'all.